haven't done this in years.
Yeah, like third grade, maybe?
Okay.
Like a bicycle.
I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
We'll start out with the minutes this morning. Commissioner Sukla, have you had a chance to review the minutes? And
Yes, Commissioner, and I didn't see anything out of the ordinary, so I would move that we approve the proceedings of the Board of Montezuma County Commissioners for October 8th, 2019.
I second that motion. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the proceedings of the Board of County Commissioners for October 8th, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I was going to say, my gosh, it was a big day, wasn't it?
Jack?
These agendas are feast or famine.
Yeah, they are. They're either. Okay, we'll now open this to public comment. If there's anybody that wishes to address the commissioners this morning, please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and tell us what you have.
MB McAfee, 22277 County Road 20 in Lewis. And I'm thinking about this, let's see, the charging station that you're planning to put out at the fairgrounds. And when I'm doing this now because I can't comment when you're talking about it on your agenda, but it just sort of seems to me putting it at the fairgrounds doesn't make very much sense because I'm not sure how it will be used out there as opposed to if it were at the road department. I mean, my assumption is I haven't read the grant proposal. It's really aimed at partly the 3 new county vehicles that are electric. So it seems like that could be associated with the road department. I don't know how many folks driving. I don't think there are electric pickups and stuff. I'm just trying to think. Well, there could be in the future, yeah. But I just am curious about why you're putting something out at the fairgrounds, which is just sort of like out there as opposed to, I don't know. So maybe that'll get explained, but it's a question I have.
Right now.
Sure.
We're actually working, we was in a meeting last week working with the city to start a charging station at the health department.
Okay.
So there would be one there, which the way that the grants work is they have to be in one location. So this would just be a whole different location.
Okay. Okay. Well, it was just something I didn't know how this was going to lay out, but wanted to.
And part of it, I think, MB, not to digress too much, but our solar project that we have for the fairgrounds is going to be a net zero to us for a charging station out there, and we feel like that could be an attraction for travelers, people traveling, an easy in, easy out place to charge, and it could be a revenue generator for the county.
Just wondered how it had been thought through. Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public comment session, and we'll move into our agenda, and we have the maintenance department with Mike on backflow valves.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mike.
I called 7 different plumbers to bid on it, and I only received 1 bid. Sparks Plumbing was too busy. I never got a call back from Taylor. CRM Plumbing never got a call back. M&R Plumbing from Farmington was supposed to show up and bid it, but they didn't show up. Klein didn't return my call. T&R was too busy, and the bid we got was from Mountain Desert. That's the only bid we received.
And that was from Sparks, you said?
No, from Mountain Desert.
Oh, Mountain Desert.
Yes, Sparks was too busy. He said he couldn't come out and do it.
I got you. How many backflow valves are
We're looking at, I think, 5.
5?
Yeah. And the total was, they combined, the total was $17,015. And that's with the tax. I gotta tell him that we're tax exempt, yeah. And he's gonna buy all the supplies from the plumbing store here in town. So, and we got 45 days to do it. You know, that's what the city's requiring, yeah.
What are
we actually lost a week off of that since the last time we were here.
Right, exactly, yeah.
What locations do we have that don't have these backflow?
Admin building, Annex 3, Annex 1, Annex 2, the Fairgrounds, and that's it.
Is the Fairgrounds on city water?
No, not Fairgrounds.
I was gonna say.
No, Road and Bridge.
Road-
Road and Bridge, yeah,
Okay,
Road
I
and
was gonna
Bridge is
say.
the other one.
Okay. Wow, and
Yeah.
that's $50 a year to have them inspected and,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, the guy I use is $40 a year to have it inspected.
I guess the only other alternative is they'll shut our water off if we don't get them, right?
Well, I already got a notice for one, but they had the wrong address on it. They had 117 North Chestnut instead of 107. And I called Tony and told him, you got the wrong address, we don't have a 117, so they're gonna give us a little break on that one. But they won't shut our water off, I know, but
Yeah,
still,
yeah.
it's something that they're mandatory wanting done.
So we have one bid,
One bid's all we got.
and you're satisfied with that bid?
Yeah, I walked him through all the buildings. He seems to know what he's doing. I've never heard of this place before. But he's done a lot of backflows already, so he knows what he's doing. So, yeah, I'm pretty happy with that bid.
And what was the company's name?
Mountain Desert Plumbing.
Well, I'd move that we approve the bid from Mountain Desert Plumbing to install the backflow preventers for Montezuma County at the cost of
Well, it'll be less than
Less
17
with
once
tax.
we get the tax off and stuff.
up to $17,000.
Okay.
I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded to grant the bid to Mountain Desert Plumbing to install 5 mandated backflow valves at the properties that Mike Chenard has identified. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Mike,
Thank you.
yeah. Thanks, but no thanks. Okay, we have CDOT and the 491 paving project update. Tim Webb, the resident engineer. Good morning, Tim.
Good morning.
How are you today?
All righty, how are you?
We're good.
Morning, I'm Tim Webb with CDOT, just here to give an update from last month on the project south of town, north of Toyac, the passing lanes. Not a lot has changed as far as some of the contingencies or unknowns that I updated you on last month, other than we are much further along on the embankment, which is good news. Some of my concern was whenever you're doing embankment, you can uncover things or get into some soft ground, that sort of thing that you have to fix. So we're probably 95% done, excuse me, with that embankment now, so that makes me feel a lot better. We didn't run into anything major there, so didn't have to spend a whole lot of contingency funds or anything on that. The main thing outstanding right now is the paving, which is what I mentioned last month. Hopefully sometime next week, I say that a little cautiously, but probably towards the end of next week, we may start paving out there. And we have about 15 days of paving ahead of us once we do start. But once we do start that and get that rolling, we'll know a lot more, obviously, as far as things like incentives that I mentioned last month. We have quality incentives on the quality of the asphalt itself, as well as smoothness incentives, and those can be quite costly. But I can say I feel a little more confident that we're going to be able to get, try to make something work as far as getting some asphalt for that County Road B. So
Is it going to be 4-lane, Tim?
yes, for a port. No, sorry. There's going to be, it'll be 4 lanes in some sections, but that's just with turn lanes, but not 4 lanes. Probably like you're asking, as far as like 2. There's not going to be passing lanes in both directions. There'll just be passing lanes on one side, and then one side will have turn lanes into like County Road B and that sort of thing.
It just looks so wide that it could be.
Yeah, it looks really wide, but we're upgrading the shoulders. We have what we call an ASHTO standard of certain widths of shoulders, which a lot of our roads around here don't meet those, obviously, just from history. But when you put in those shoulders, it makes it look really wide as well.
So in the future, though, because of doing this upgraded work, could it be turned into 4-lane with additional?
Oh, I'm sure it could. Yeah, this is a 2-mile stretch, is what it is. So it's a pretty lengthy stretch, but it's going to be certainly a heck of a lot better than it has been as far as passing and that sort of thing, and the safety of those intersections as well.
Are you pretty much on schedule as far as what you would, where you'd hope to be in this project?
Yeah, overall, I'd say, I mean, plus or minus a week or two, somewhere in there, but I'd say, but we have about 60 working days left, which is approximately 3 months, so that puts us into January, and the contractor's, pretty much hoping to get done by the end of the calendar year. Does that mean they will or not? I'm not sure, but they have into January to, contractually to actually get it done. So, if the weather holds out, right, you never know what the weather's going to bring you, but if the weather holds out, I've built plenty of these projects well into December, especially south of town down there. If we can keep the weather in the 60s or even 50s and that sort of thing. The paving, like I said last month, that's really the trick as far as temperatures go. Concrete we can do in colder weather, dirt work we can do in colder weather, utilities we can do in colder weather, but the paving we need 60s really to get that done. So, I mean, effectively, which, looking at the forecast looks pretty possible for later next week. So hopefully it'll hold out and we'll get it done, and then I saw Rob over there. Hopefully you guys, if we can get you some asphalt, you guys can get your paving done too on County Road B. So, but I'd say by the time I come next month, hopefully we'll even actually have something happening before then, as far as knowing a lot better the financial status, so that I mean, ideally, I don't want to have to call up Rob and tell him, okay, day before Christmas that we're okay. You know what I mean? So
It's okay, we're plowing snow on Christmas anyway.
Yeah, we don't want to wait till Christmas.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that's-
So I guess my main milestone I'm trying to get through right now is get that paving started and get that done down there, and then I'll know a lot better. And then obviously I'll have to talk with Kevin and Mike and
I know
let
everybody's
them
praying
decide.
for moisture in this country, but it'd be good if it'd hold off a while for you to get that
Yeah.
done, huh?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay,
Especially
well-
especially if it's I guess better rain at this point than snow,
Yeah.
because that means the temperatures are holding out.
Rob, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell you, Tim, really thank you for the work you guys have done this year on some of these turn lanes you've been putting in around
Oh, yeah.
160, 491. And
34,
I
that's,
didn't even know you'd done 34, and I went by there today. and
I know,
wow,
that is
what
so
a- What a
nice.
difference,
It really made a
160
difference,
improvement.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, you sure did.
really a good deal on you guys' part, so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And we
you
put that
turned
turn lane up.
Intersection there on 34 into a much safer
Yeah.
way for traffic to get around and get into 34 there.
Yeah.
That looks really good.
I have to tell you, I was out there that day. It was a weekend. We went out there and did that restriping work, and every person that stopped there at the intersection thanked us.
I'll bet they did.
And that, doesn't always happen that way.
Yeah.
That was nice. Yeah, I
It
mean,
sure looks good.
literally every person that stopped, one of the persons that stopped actually said they were rear-ended there making a left-hand turn once, and
I can't believe we haven't had more heavily.
bad accidents, yeah.
Bad accidents at
Yeah.
that deal there.
The left-hand turn is much more dangerous than the right-hand turn, for sure. So, anyway, yeah, it looks a lot better, and we put that turn lane up at County Road BB as well, which you're aware of.
Yes, what an improvement.
And S, yeah, S
Yeah.
is much.
And at the
much
church,
safer.
out at the Rock Springs Church.
At the Rock Springs Church
You've
as well,
addressed, we've addressed some really critical places on that highway, so.
Right,
Good
right.
job. Okay, keep us posted,
Okay.
keep your fingers crossed.
Yep, okay.
I got one more question.
Thank you, yes, sir.
And it's related to the highway, but so I've had a constituent, and boy, he beats me up all the time about it, and it's well-deserved. The bridge down the McCamel, is there any long-term plans to redo that bridge where there's more room?
You're
We've
talking
had
about the
several
one
people
just south
killed
of town
there.
here?
Yeah, the one on south of town on 491, just before you get down to
The port?
Timon
Yeah,
intersection.
right.
Do you know if there's any long-term plans to replace that bridge with a wider bridge?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I know it's on, we track that as far as deficiencies and that sort of thing. I can't tell you off the top of my head where it's at on the list. I mean, it's definitely on the list as far as deficiencies goes, functionally deficient as far as how narrow it is. Anything more than that, we obviously can get back to you on that.
Could you, for the next
We will.
month, could you let us know?
Yep,
Okay.
I'll let you know. I can tell you, I mean, off the top of my head, I haven't heard it talked about as far as being imminent, but
Okay.
again, as far as where it is on the list, I would have to get back to you on that.
Okay.
And I will.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim.
Yeah.
Any other questions? All right.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yep.
All right.
Good luck.
So, Rob, you know, Art from North Bridge, was here for the CDOT update, and that's the thing, so.
Okay. Come on up, Rob.
Morning.
Good morning, Rob.
I'm actually scheduled to be here on my schedule, so that's why, or I would have been happy to avoid it, but. Keenan, I'll take care of this with this letter that you got on this Summit Ridge Water Road 31.
Yeah.
They have an active open permit right now to put that in, so I'll get a copy and then give this back to Kim. But
Kim, yeah.
We'll add this to the permit, which we do have an open bond with this company.
Yeah.
Performance bond. And so these people are actually getting good work from this company and repairing this pipe. They're taking care of them. It's just what's going to happen next year when they're all gone, and is the pipe still broke? So I think we can take care of that with the permit.
Good.
So.
Thank you, Rob.
Okay.
Appreciate that.
So my schedule this week, have you got that one? Did I send that one to you? Okay. Sometimes I forget if I get that to you or not, so there it is.
Get pretty handy with that, Jack.
Yeah. The Cortez District last week was working on those roads south of town, Road E, E.5, 24, 24.5. We still got to finish a few of those, but they're making a lot of progress down there, gathering that up. We're hauling gravel up out of McCamel and moving right along through those roads. But this week we stopped all that and started doing blade patching. So yesterday they were over in Mancus working on Road 39, and we were going to try to hit Road 42 over there, or it's actually 41, but just didn't have enough asphalt yesterday to take care of that one. So today they're in Cortez. They're doing roads H.6 and H and getting all that ready to do chip seal early next spring. I did talk to Rod Thompson a couple of days ago, and we're looking at maybe getting some early chip seal this year, like late May, early June, by doing this work now, getting all these little bad spots fixed. And if they hold through the winter, like we hope they will, like we know we will, with this asphalt, we'll get a jump on this chip seal next year and get these fixed before it gets too late in the year. So that's what the crews are doing this week. Also last week, we did a lot of work on that 35.6 subdivision that we turned green a few years ago. Got in there and fixed some bad spots in there, bladed at their annual, semi-annual blading, got that all done. Not quite sure what to do on the Forest Service roads. We're talking with about that a little bit. We don't know what to do because we haven't had no moisture. If we tear them up, then it makes them worse. Yeah. So I need to get with Pete. We need to figure out this Schedule A this year. We may not do Schedule A road blading in the forest this year just because of the damage we can do to the roads being so dry. If they were getting some steady rains up there, or at least some rain once in a while, we could probably fix some of them. But right now they're kind of sealed up. They aren't the best, but they could be a lot worse if we mess with them. So.
Would they have carryover that we could use? They could use the money on the roads next year.
I don't know how that works within their structure. It'd be a question we'd have to ask Forest Service on that. You know, we have obligations and agreements in place with our Schedule A agreements, contracts, but if they want them bladed, I guess we'll have to go blade them, but we don't recommend it at this time. So I'm going to talk to Pete about that this week and see where we go with that. We just haven't had no rain.
As late as it is, that it'd be better to, if we could use the money for next year.
Yeah, and you're right. Sometimes we get this usually done in late August, early September, but we're into October now, so maybe it's not worth it this year. You know, If it had been raining, we'd have been on it already. But we've drove the roads, and it's like, wow, you know, we break these open, we're going to tear them up, make it even worse. So we're just a little hesitant to do it right now. So.
Yeah, there's sometimes it's not. You do more damage than good by trying to fight your way through them.
So that activity we've kind of put on the back burner. In the meantime, we're continuing to do this blade patching. Roundup is out doing culverts in Pleasant View and Yellow Jacket, and they got into a heck of a mess yesterday on one, but they got control of it, and they're putting it back together today. So we had to close BB for the night, but I'll tell you, it's amazing how these roads were built back in the day. You get down into the skeleton, so to speak, and it's like, wow.
And you don't find what you want to find?
Nothing even close, you know, so yeah, they're tough. So they got control of that one yesterday, and they'll be putting it back together today. And then continue working on some roads out there, getting prepped for the winter. trucks are hauling gravel, they're hauling asphalt, and doing well, and the crusher's doing well, so he's still pounding out material. Which I do want to kind of bring up a point about this crusher while I'm talking about it. And I've sent Shaq a couple of pictures. We leased a bigger, better crusher. It's actually the same size, but it's modern. It's Cedar Rapids, self-contained screening crushing operation. This is up at our pit right currently. Lines up right with our jaw crusher. We've jumped up from 178 ton an hour average with our crusher, cone crusher, to about 280 ton an hour immediately. It just did that much.
Better than 100 ton different?
About 40% increase immediately. Now this is due to bigger screen, more screen efficiency. You know, we get probably 25% more screening capacity. A cone that's a high-speed modern cone that can take larger rocks and crush them faster. It did help the jaw crusher tremendously too, because we were pinching it down so tight, trying to help our old one, that we put a lot of pressure on it to perform that's hard on it. So it just balanced out, and it did fit within our horsepower capacity at the generator. Generator's running more efficient, which is good. That's better for them. So when you look at the long term, and this is something I may propose purchasing, we're renting it. We leased it for a month to see if we liked it, see how it fit our plans without. Sometimes you do these things, you throw that piece in, then it's just a domino effect on down the line. Bigger conveyors and more power, and something happens, you know, it just doesn't work. Bigger loaders or whatever, but this fits our capacities very well. I mean, our loader is not sitting at the top there waiting to dump now. He's back and forth, and moving material through, obviously, if you're going to increase that much. But if you go a steady month of working like we are on the hours we have now, that's about 14,000 a ton a month more. 14,000 is a lot of tons, you know. That's a big inch, that's a big jump.
Yeah.
It's 125,000 ton a year on a 9-month year, you know.
That's what we paid William Manuch to go over into Mancus and
make 40,000
make 40,000.
Yeah, you know, we paid them $200 and some thousand to do 40 tons, you know. So this may be an option to purchase.
Is it very mobile? Will it go?
Very mobile.
It's mobile just like your other one.
It's all modern, has the hydraulic jacks under it to set it up and level it, and it's very quick and easy. And we're working on a price. We're working on negotiating a price on it. But right now, I just wanted to lease it for a month and see if it would even fit our plans, and it's doing very well. So I'll probably be bringing this before you again as a possible purchase, but just an update on the whole thing and where it's taking us. So
I got a question about the picture, because I worked on one of these things for 9 years. Can you feed the grizzly either way, from the side or from the back?
no, just the back on this one. Well, I guess you could do it on the sides. You'd have to build a bulkhead there and protect all your moving equipment. It's a chain feed coming up, but yeah, you could. I guess you could do anything you want if you do enough work to get there. Yeah, but it's designed to be fed from the back.
Well, the reason I asked that question is we always had it from the side, because then the guy in the loader, if there's anything that goes wrong, he can see on the whole side of the crusher.
You bring up a good point. On our old crusher, we set 90 degrees to that jaw, so you could see all that. But this one, we're in line, and boy, you're right, Larry. Now, what a difference that's made with being able to see that cone, and if it's full or if it's empty. It's funny you picked up on that. So, Randy is, you know, he's been around quite a bit, but some things are out there that you don't even know about unless you've just seen it. But they have a thing called a sonar detection, which works very well on these crushers. And you put it up there, and it reads the depth of the feed in the cone.
Oh,
and you can,
well, you're way fancier than
yeah, I know.
We had a shovel.
Well, when I worked for Mount Gravel, we had a bar. So anyway, they're very efficient. They're not very expensive. You put them in. You put a light up on the control tower there, and if it's red, that means you're low, or if it's green, you're doing fine. And there's these little nuances you can do, and they're not very expensive. These are pretty modern things. So I got Randy all hyped up on that. If we buy this crusher, we'll be doing something like that, because that loader operator can actually run that plant with a remote control from his cab. He's got the feed control in his cab to speed up and slow down. But if he can't see the cone, which you're right, and you're lined up like that, it's hard to do. But as he backs off the ramp, he can look over and take a peek at it, you know. But one little light can change the whole operation there, so we'll work on that.
I've had to dig that thing out before, so I know what it's like.
These high-speed cones, too, they provide us a very well well, what's the word I'm looking for? A good shape, particle shape on the aggregates. Instead of the long slivers we'll see out of the older style like we have, you'll see a lot more cubical, which is good for paving.
What you want.
Which, you know, with our agreements with stone, sand, and gravel, we provide our own gravel and our own chips, our crusher fines to do asphalt. So it makes a very good aggregate for paving. Instead of them long slivers and stuff like that, we get that cubical shape. So it's a good machine. If we can get the price where we can work it in, it will be something we should really talk about.
How long have you been operating it, Rob?
Well, it's been running for about 2 weeks. We made about 10,000 ton of 1.5-inch road base, and then we've been crushing 3/4 ever since. And then the production is just amazing what we're doing now. Yeah, 300. You know, you see 300 ton an hour coming off the end of that belt. That's pretty.
That's a lot of gravel.
That's pretty fun to watch for a small operation. Yeah. And so it also gives us a lot of extra maintenance time. When we were just up against the wall to keep up with the road departments, the road crews, he was not having no time to fix it. And these things are designed to self-destruct. They've got to be worked on, you know. So if you can gain another 10 hours a month or 20 hours a month of maintenance now without being behind in your crushing, what an improvement, you know. So it's a good deal. So the other news on the 7th Street Road, the city did, you know, come to terms with us on purchasing, or I guess vacating that land. So we're moving forward with that. We're still waiting for 2 signatures, which is kind of worrying me a little bit. I don't know why they don't sign these pieces of paper giving us the easements to there. Everybody says they're going to, but I still don't have them in my hand yet. So we're working on it. But in the meantime, we're working on our survey. We've got a survey plan in place. Get out there and give us our stakes, or be ready to give them to us. We're going to do a little change on the culverts. There's a pile of dirt there that city said that we could keep and use. So that did change some profile on it a little bit. Helps us actually with some dirt hauling. So we'll change a little bit of profile there, and maybe a little bit of work on the culvert grades. And we're trying to get out of putting in that drop inlet, which is about a $4,000 item. So if we can avoid that, that'd be good. Our start date is I'm still trying to target about the end of October, right at the 1st of November, which I did make a call today to get some numbers on renting an 815 compactor, sheet foot compactor, to work that in. Bring our dozer down and a loader and a couple trucks, and we'll at least get it roughed in. If the weather holds, we'll get it gravel too. But you're talking 8 to 10 days of roughing. You know, it's not going to be much to do that. So, but just got to get all the numbers and all the players in there.
And
so
get the signatures, right? Yeah.
So we're still pursuing it. So we're moving forward. So other than that, that's about it. So.
Anything we can do to help on those signatures or anything, Rob, or is that just something you just
No, one of them was confusion a little bit on the 60-foot easement was right at 2 acres of property involved, and then when we added another 20 foot, it added another half of an acre. But the confusion was that they thought we were taking 2.5 acres. So there's been this delay in getting the signature while we explain, no, that's not necessarily true. So we have an easement, and a 60-foot easement through there. We just need an extra 20 foot to make it fit, which was all agreeable till that came up. So we just got to get that straightened out. We'll be all right. And then I think the landowner is out of touch right now. They're down in Arizona, so we're just chasing them around, just trying to phone tag each other in. So, but they're also talking with Manus and Associates too. So we're working both ends. So.
Good deal.
I think we're okay.
Glad to see that getting moving.
Yeah, the weather forecast is still good. I mean, the temperatures are going to drop, but like Tim said, we can still do work in November, usually. I mean, it's not as easy, but we can still do it. So.
Road, I can't remember on your schedule, Rob, 27 Road is scheduled for a chip seal this coming year. Are you going to do another chip seal on 27?
I'm trying to think. I don't remember 27 being on there.
That was an overlay.
Okay, maybe it's, because that's what I was hoping it was. I thought it was a chip seal, but to me, I think that asphalt overlay would probably be a good deal if that's, I just didn't remember your schedule that well, so.
Yeah, I don't have it with me this morning, but I remember 30.
I'm pretty sure that was an overlay, but we've got it somewhere.
Yeah. Well, nothing to fret about now. I was just curious because I think that, you know, if we get that extension out there, I think we'll probably see the traffic change considerably on that section.
I remember you asked me about it last week, and that's, you know, that options I gave you are all options.
Yeah.
If 27 fits our needs or our future even better, then that's one we should go do. It's certainly one that's ready for an overlay. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong, that's a good one to do. You know, I had 10 miles of overlay on Road G, clear to Sand Canyon parking lot, but we could do 8 miles to the, you know, the compressor station down there, the CO2 station, which is where the heavy truck traffic goes to anyway, and take 2 miles off of that and put it on Road 27. Those are just options to play with, you know, so.
I got you.
And I do agree with you, if that's gonna be a big part of our future out there, that's probably one we should go do, absolutely, you know, so.
Okay.
So,
All righty.
okay, so, other than that, I will take care of this.
Yeah,
for you, so.
and let Kim get that and get a
Okay.
copy of it to you, so
Okay.
put that on your radar. Okay. Thanks, Rob.
You bet, see ya.
Okay. Larry Copeland and Cindy Ramsey. Is Cindy coming with you this morning, Larry? No?
She's not
Unable to make it? Okay.
Hey, Rob.
Morning, Larry.
Morning, morning. I just got this last night, email.
Last night,
Orders,
late night email.
Like 10 o'clock email. It's not exactly, doesn't have the electrician's whole bid.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of, it could be up a little bit from that.
Okay. Grant application. Gotcha. Mhm. Well, that looks,
Is the total cost 22,000?
It could be higher than that. He was waiting for the electrician to get back with, and then with whatever Empire was gonna charge to re-plug in that service where the old trailer was. It's all there, it's just they gotta put it in a pedestal with the meter on it, and that supposedly he's not gonna, he says it could go up a little bit from this. So
I guess
from,
what I find interesting about that number is we was in a meeting with the city about a charging station at the health department, and the number was 130,000.
yeah, the one on
That's
the,
why we're putting it at the fairgrounds. $110,000 savings.
and this is a different company as well.
and see, this is, when I talked to that Lori, who is on the board, Lori Dickinson from Durango, she's the one that actually, we've sent the grant to her, looked at it, she gave us pointers, but she said that this Jason is the certified installer through them.
You could put 6 charging stations in.
Now, this is a level 2 charge point?
Yeah, this is a level 2 port, just like the one in Memphis. There's a picture on like the 3rd page there.
So it's,
Yeah.
is it,
Identical. As
It's
far
just
as-
the same as the one in Memphis.
so level 2 is the one that you can or fast charge?
I don't know if it is or not,
I think it's a 45-minute.
charging,
That would be the fastest.
the fast, yeah, 'cause I think it's, in our grant, I think we have wrote down somewhere, I don't have it here in front of me, that it's gonna take like 4 hours to charge a Chevy Bolt, or,
Oh, then that's different.
From zero, that's
Yeah.
from zero though, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And on the last page, this guy says that he recommends a same like level 2, but 4 port, and that's just for reference in the back, what it would cost to get a level 2 4 charging stations. So it'd actually be 2 of them pedestals to charge 4 cars at once. If you wanted to go that far, that would be that's just a different option I threw in there to tell him. You
I'm
know,
more concerned about the high speed.
High speed.
Or high charging capacity, because it was 45 minutes. I think there's a level 1 and level 2.
And there's a level 3,
Yeah, I think the level 3, I think is the one you're talking about, the fast charge. Don't quote me on it, I can get back with the grant and look
Yeah.
at it as far as, actually, I might,
Can you get a quote from him to see what it would, instead of 4, if it was 2, but it was.
fast charge?
Fast charge.
I think
And how much time we got here on this? We don't have much time.
end of the month. The grant's pretty much done. We were waiting on this to put in there with our paperwork. Somewhere in this menagerie of.
Well,
Yeah, that,
one of the main reasons it was,
Yeah, I need to.
one of the main reasons is we have some plans for the fairgrounds where people, if it was 45 minutes, they could park, walk around, look at some stuff we're talking about doing, and they could be on their way, but
Yeah.
4 hours.
Such lofty numbers.
Yeah, I don't even remember what the, I think Mancus is the normal one.
you think?
Is
maybe-
this a copy of what Mancus did?
That's identical to the one that Mancus has.
I don't know what they have.
That is, I went and took pictures of it. That's exactly the one that they have. And with the numbers that he has on here, this charge point CT 402, that's the exact one that comes up on the computer. It's that one.
But, and you're sure that it's 4 hours? Oh, no?
I'm looking it up. Level 2, it says a Mercedes in 3 hours. The level 3, it doesn't say what kind of car, but it says in 80% in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So can you find
So
out
that's-
what it would cost if it was level 3?
Yeah, I don't know if that's part of the grant, but I can
Two.
check with the guy, yeah. As far as the level 3, I thought I had it here somewhere, but
What do you think, Commissioner?
Yeah, no,
4
I-
hours, they're gonna.
I don't think we're gonna get too much action on a 4-hour charge out there. That's a long time to sit and wait, so.
Unless there's a church or a bar.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. We can put a bar out there. You know where to find me.
Yep. Talk with Living Solar and see if he can give you a number
An estimate on it.
on a 2-station level 3. Now, I know it takes more juice, I know it takes more electricity
Yeah.
to run those level 3s, that you have to have 440 or something like that to,
Yeah, and we got with Empire, and where the old trailer was, is the boxes, everything's still there except for the meter. They pulled the meter. So they'll have to re-put the meter in to make sure there's enough bolts there,
yeah.
enough power there to do that.
Depends on the size of the transformer and how many.
Yeah, and it used to be a house there, so you would think that washer, dryer, microwave, everything for a house would
Is there
have.
3-phase power out there to the fairgrounds? Do you know if that's 3-phase out there or not?
I don't even want to say. I
Yeah.
don't not know off the top of my head.
Yeah, because I think that's one of the requirements is 3-phase
Three-phase.
power.
I don't
When you
even.
go back out there, look at the pole. If it's got 3 transformers on it, that's a good indication that it would be 3-phase. Or,
I know the racetrack has 1 transformer. I don't know what's. I'll have to look at the outside on the highway.
Yeah. Let's check that out before we proceed with this and see.
Yeah.
See if what a level 3.
Three,
How much.
fast
difference-
charge.
Yeah,
Okay.
for fast charge.
And then I guess they needed a signature for the letter of
For the grant.
for a letter of support,
Yeah.
and then a certificate, and then whatever the regarding lobbying and.
Which order do you want to go on?
What's that?
letter support.
Okay.
You know, the other reason was that we thought some of the people that ride the bikes out there at Phil's World would use it, but 4 hours is,
That's about the time for a slow lap at Phil's World.
well, that's, there are not many people can ride that thing for 4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shaq can, but I don't, and John, but I.
It's bigger now. You know, you can probably, if you got to take it easy, but you can probably
Sounds like a.
get a nice long ride in for 4 hours.
I quit playing golf because it took 5 hours.
They miniature golf half the time.
Does this grant, does it specify what level of charge station that we're putting in, can we still go ahead and apply for the grant?
I will get with Lori
Yeah.
to make sure that we can, if we bump it to a level 3 fast charge, if it still fits within
Yeah.
the grant of it. So I thought I read somewhere, but I've got stuff scattered here and
I would think it would still,
in Cindy's office.
Does it show, have you read the grant, John? Could John look at it and see?
see if
I'm not looking at it right now, but I read it when it was sent.
Well, they must have something, because,
Were you looking?
It makes reference to level 3. Page 8 of this chart ahead. We're applying for level 3 charging station, please provide documentation. So evidently there's something. It does mean something for it.
Can I see it? Where did you see
It
that?
makes reference to a level 3.
If applying for a level 3 charging station, please provide documentation demonstrating the discussion that took place around your utility rates and costs.
Yes, I mean, it does make reference to it, so I'm assuming that. But it, you know, something.
What page was that?
8.
There's also, there's more discussion on,
Yeah. So it does reference.
yeah, clearly it's possible to apply for level 3. There's on number 11, page 11, number 11 also.
That's what I thought.
We wrote not applicable, we're not applying for a level 3, but
What would we need to do to move forward? Do we need to get some information first?
we probably need to find out first if if Empire can
If they
provide the
have the power.
electricity to a level, power to a level 3, because I know it takes a different electrical
Yeah.
And if so, what would that cost?
to
If we had to-
upgrade a transformer or something.
And I know this Ben, Jason, is in Alamosa this week doing a big solar project over there. So whether I can get him back over here or if he can just do it over the phone. 'Cause he's already been out there and looked at it.
I'll bet you could probably get an answer over the phone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would think today we can, commission could sign the
Letter.
2 certifications and the letter of support and then the board member application.
I move that we sign the letter of support for the EV charging station grant application for the Fairgrounds and the 2 certification documents supporting the letter.
I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded to approve the Montezuma County Fairgrounds EV charging station grant application and the 2 certification documents that follow with that grant. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Kim, could you look at this for me for just a second? There's a signature page right after the, do I need to sign that one too? This one. Air quality stuff, not. Mhm. Doesn't look like they want me signing there, do they? Okay.
Sign that one. The signature tabs on the grant application.
Gotcha.
So just, these 3 documents.
Okay. All right.
When is this application due?
October 31st.
Okay. See what we can connoiter with Living Solar and see if he can give
Empire.
us information on that fact.
And we'll fill, Commissioner Ken Larry's the one pushing this, so we'll fill him in.
You want me to leave him one of these?
I've got one.
Is that the application?
No, this is just another one what you guys already got.
Yeah, we have.
The
Okay.
bid that you gave us, yeah. Okay. All right. Anything else at the fairgrounds? Racing season's all done?
Test and tune Sunday, and then that's the end of,
End of, yeah.
and he's got 26 dates he wants to do next year.
26?
Yeah, but it's already, the first two conflict with 12 Hours of Mesa Verde. I don't think race cars and bicycles are gonna really get together a whole lot. And then the Ute Mountain Rodeo thought about doing a concert the weekend before the rodeo. And he's wanting to do a race, and I don't think a big name concert in a rodeo is gonna, and a car race is gonna do very good.
Yeah.
So we're going through the schedule to see where he's at.
Juggling, yeah.
Yeah, see where he can come up with, but yeah, so far so good. He's happy with
Happy with
the way
everything?
thing turned out, the way
Good.
everything turned out on that last 3 day. So
Good.
he's gonna do it again this coming up here if we can come together on dates.
Good, good.
Yeah. No.
Larry, on the water system, you got some numbers for us?
No, I got the paperwork back from Ernie as far as elevations and as far as length and what it would be to go from there to the top of the mesa with the tank and then gravity. It's only gonna be about 15 pounds of pressure, if that. It's only like 65 feet of drop from the top of the mesa to the 4-H building. So I'm gonna go with a pump down lower and then just pump it up there. So I'm headed for Cruzan's right now to get what kind of pump they think it would take to push water up to there, the pipe, and then whatever else we decide to do. If we want to do risers every 50 foot, that way we can always plumb into that later.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
just
what is your opinion?
I think we ought to do risers and bury it about a foot or so under the ground, so that way nobody can hit it, mark it, and then we can come back in later, dig down a foot and plumb into it for a garden hose or whatever we want to do.
Just put a T in there with a cap
Yeah,
on it.
and just
if
leave
you
it
ever
just
wanted
like that.
Yeah.
You got to bury it 4 feet, so if we go bury it 4 feet, come up 2 feet, put a cap on it, cover it over with 2 feet of dirt, mark it, and that way, you know, if your convention center happens to come along, and then there's, well, we know there's irrigation water right here, we just tap into it,
Yeah.
plumb in for a green spot.
So you're
Farm
thinking
it.
of a pump that will pump the system, do away with the gravity flow up on the mesa, because it's not gonna give you
I
enough
don't,
pressure.
I don't think it's
to-
gonna give you, I think
enough
15
pressure.
pounds of pressure, it's like,
That's not gonna do
you
anything.
know, to,
You can't
especially, I
run-
mean, down lower, it's gonna have more pressure by the time it goes up there by the 4-H building.
gonna-
Depending upon where we come out at, is where it's, you know, the elevation of the water. So I'm gonna give it to them, let them throw some numbers at it as far as
Yeah.
pipe, the 6-inch pipe, the T's, caps, and then what size pump they think it might.
Might require
Wouldn't
that.
you need
require.
a lateral line going to the outdoor arena to where we could sprinkle that instead of have to use the truck?
Well, see, and that's where I think if we put a T or something in somewhere there, we can go back in and whatever we wanna do to improve each. So I mean, if we do 60 foot, if the pipe's 20 foot, if we do 60 feet and then tee up and then 60 feet, just like your field with risers.
But you might as well get the pipe to where it would go to the outdoor.
Yeah, I mean, and then you figure out where you want to tie into it at. I mean, if you want it to go to, which side of the arena, if you want it to go to the back side, front side. But if, at least if you have it there, we can always tee off of that and then run down with 3-inch pipe.
Whatever you need to do,
Yeah.
yeah.
But what I'm getting at is we should figure it out and do it. I mean, we shouldn't, I don't know why there would be stages. Let's figure out how to sprinkle our outdoor arena. Let's figure out where to dump the water, and then let's do it all at once.
Yeah.
We don't need to mess around.
Well,
Let's
no.
finish what we start and let's do it all.
Well, I understand that. I'm just, if we put it out there in that parking lot and we have a dead end, something sticking someplace that we don't know what we're doing, somebody's gonna run it over.
But that's your job to figure out what we're doing. That's what I'm telling you. Figure
Yeah.
it out. If
Well-
you can't figure it out, get Cruzan out there and have them figure it out. The reason I'm saying this is we asked our road supervisor to figure out if he had the $5 million, how to, what roads he would do it on, and how much it would cost for each road. It took him 4 days to figure out how to do the $5 million. We've asked you and we've asked landfill to give us numbers on the cell and on this, and we still don't have them. So I'm asking you to pick up the pace. And
Well, if I know all my numbers and what I'm looking at,
okay,
if I'm just gonna go stick a pipe in the ground
no,
and.
we'll go
I mean,
out there and figure it out.
If you want sprinklers on top of every year,
You're the fairground manager. You're the one would know what's best to do out there. So
Where it would be most beneficial for you
Yeah.
to have water, to where you'd have pressured water to sprinkle.
I don't know how you could do an arena without overlapping your water. Because you have sprinklers, you're gonna overlap, and then it's gonna
and
be
you might
wet.
be that might be the case, but find out. See if they do any other arenas if they sprinkle them. I don't know. I mean, find out the information.
Well, I can do that. I mean, you told me to check from getting from point A to point B.
Well,
And that's what I'm
fine.
going with, and now you're throwing at me to do the arena. I can check it out. I have
Yeah.
no problem with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
maybe Cruzan can give you.
Yeah, I mean, I can Google different arenas and talk to different places and see if they do that.
Sure. So I think Commissioner Sukla's on something. If we're gonna start, if we're gonna build the pipeline and we're
Yeah.
gonna get.
I mean, I'm with
pressure
you on
water
it, yeah.
up there, then let's have some places that we know where we'd like to have.
Yeah.
Sprinklered to save you guys time and labor and stuff, having to run water trucks and stuff. And-
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. I mean, if we're gonna build a green spot someplace,
Yeah.
I'd just rather run the water to get there right now than have to do it later.
Exactly.
But if we don't know where the green grass is gonna be,
No,
it's,
we just don't know, yeah, and that's gonna be kinda in your ballpark to say, hey, this is where I've determined the best place would be to put in a 1.5 acre or 2 acre park or
Yeah.
something where, okay.
I mean, as far as like the convention center, if you're gonna still do that out to there, how it's gonna be, where it's gonna be, if
Yeah.
there's gonna be, if I know where it is, I can put grass in front of it or beside it or around it.
Gotcha.
There's a lot of unknown stuff to me.
Yeah, I got you.
Okay.
All righty.
Okay,
Thank you, Larry.
thank you.
Okay, on our public lands is Derek. Derek, you're the sole operator today? Were Connie and them busy? They were tied up? Okay. All right, Derek. Good morning.
All right, well, this should be quick unless you have a lot for me.
We may have a lot for you.
All right.
How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you all doing?
Good, we're good.
Good, so, yeah, I don't have a whole lot. Basically, today is the closing of the objection period for the Lone Pine project. This far, we've received one objection, but they have till tonight to be able to file any objections. So over the course of the next couple of days, we'll see what we receive through email and regular mail, and then we'll go through processing of that objection. The Aspen EA objection period is still open and should be open till November 7th. Yeah, that's about it.
have you received any objections to that so far?
To the Aspen EA?
Yeah.
Not at this point, no.
Okay.
Yeah, they usually wait till the end if they're going to object, so within the last, 2 or 3 days. And really, that's all I had, unless you guys have any questions on anything.
Well, a long-term question.
Okay.
So, we was talking with our road supervisor, and we're trying to figure out a way that the county can work with you guys to improve, to do an overlay or do a chip seal on the road from Butler Corner to House Creek and tie in where we've done some kind of a long-term plan that we could start working on now, because we know how long it takes
Right.
for you. Can you, is there anything that the county could do to help as far as support to get the ball rolling, to be able to improve that? We're worried about the pavement. We're worried about losing it.
Sure. So I spoke with Pete Merkel, our roads engineer, after our last meeting. You brought it up at that time. And he said that, yes, that's on our list of projects to put in for with regards to federal highway funding. So that's kind of where it's at right now. I think, having Rob work with Pete, to ensure that it stays as a priority for Montezuma County when we have our Schedule A agreement discussions and things of that sort. I think would be, a positive thing to there again, keep it, on the radar and up on the list as something that wants to be done, in cooperation with the Forest Service. So,
Rob, we talked with Rob about that, and that's good. And he said that he thinks if there's a way that the county could be involved in the bidding process, he believes that the county could do that project almost 10 times with less amount of money than the stuff that you guys have to go through. And I don't know, Pete and Rob would have to work it out, but we're more than willing to help to improve those two roads. You know as well as I do, the House Creek Road now is that creek or that canyon right there is a mega for these paddle boarders and the kayakers now, and that road is one busy road. We want to help you do whatever we can.
Okay. Yeah, for that, we actually have funding available or identified for 2020 to do the design to work on that one major slump, and then work in anticipation for putting in for funding for 2021 to get at least the slump fixed, not the entire road as far as being repaved and things like that, but that one area where we're having continual issues. So that's in the works for 2020, like I said, as far as design, and then, in anticipation for implementation in 2021 for that. But as far as the overall road, then that's where I think continue to have those conversations between Pete and Rob, will keep that, on the high priority list there.
Okay, we'll help any way we can.
That sounds good.
Has the Forest Service done any type of resurfacing or repaving or anything on that road to House Creek since it was put in during the dam project?
Not in my time here. If I remember correctly, I believe in 08 or 09, from what I recall, was the last time that it may have been done, and whether it was the county or the Forest Service that did that, or if it was done in cooperation, I don't know. That was before my time, so I'm not positive.
Yeah.
Well, right now the numbers are, and I don't know how far that is. Well, let's see, I could use I don't know if that's 10 miles, and then we're able to do the overlays for 130,000 a mile. So if it's 10 miles, that would be 1.3 million.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a number that we could use, well, depending on the total numbers, but Rob feels like there's no way that you guys could do it for that. But if there's a way that the county could work with you and we could get apply for those monies, because that's usually a year process just in itself, isn't it? And you guys have probably already done your budget, but if we could get the ball rolling to have this grant application like you're talking about for the sloughing, where it'd fall right in after that, then maybe it'd all work out.
Right, yeah, and for projects of that size, that's not something that we normally get anyways, for just from our normal forest appropriation. That would take, putting in for some special dollars or dollars through grants from federal highways.
Or something like that.
Correct, yeah. But that's not something that we, as the forest would have available. At least,
well, if
not
there's
to
other
that
options, we'd sure sign a letter of support for you.
Sure, and then, with the collaborative forest restoration project, House Creek probably wouldn't fall into the category to put in for funds for that, but the Dolores Norwood, would. So that's something that we'll also, put in that proposal, or at least talk about it.
Okay, and then maybe we just have to go a different direction for the House Creek, because that House Creek Road needs it.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
Does. And we'll help any way we can.
Okay. All right. Anything else?
How'd your burns go?
The latest one that we had there, the House Creek, we were successful in pulling it off. It burned on the hotter side for sure. So from aesthetic standpoint, right now it doesn't look too pretty.
Yeah.
We had a lot of needle scorch, which, gives the appearance, that there's a bunch of dead trees out there, but that's not the case. It's just the needles, they're again scorched, and they'll be red until they fall, and then we'll get regrowth on those needles, in the next couple of years. But what we did do is raise the scorch height quite a bit, so that in future years, when we get fires in a bad year, that we won't have those ladder fuels that would allow the fire to get up into the crowns. So from that standpoint, it was a good thing, but there again, for a year or two, it's not going to look too pretty. And then from a reduction in oak standpoint, it actually did excellent. You need, those higher intensity conditions to have a good effect on oak. And we achieved that, through this latest burn there. That's just the way, it goes with prescribed fire. You're going to have, areas that burn with high intensity. You're going to have areas that burn with medium intensity, and then areas that burn at low intensity, that creates that mosaic. And the intent is not to have it all high intensity, by any means. And, I have been hearing, from a few folks here and there that, they don't like the way this latest burn, looks, that it looks like we did a lot more damage than good, but there again, what we're seeing is just that needle scorch, and after a year or two, we'll really see if we did have a big impact on the larger trees or not. But right now, from what our experience has shown, is that we didn't. That we had about 5% mortality. We give ourselves, at least for this burn plan, a 30% threshold for pine mortality. So we're well below that, based on our initial observations. So we're feeling pretty comfortable. But like I said, it'll take a year or two to really tell what the mortality was. But I don't think we're going to get anywhere near 30%. A lot of the smaller diameter pine, where we may have, had a higher percentage of mortality, that's not something that right now that we have outlet for. So prescribed burning, is one of our opportunities to do that at a low cost, because right now it's costing us anywhere between $350 to $800 per acre to do small diameter thinning, whereas with that prescribed burn, I think we were in the $30 to $40 per acre range as far as how much it cost to treat there. So we're achieving some of the same results at a much lower cost.
Oh, well, I figured they was going to fly you out to California to show them how to do it.
Yeah, well, we all have a lot of catch up to do. I mean, here within our region, we've identified, that we have somewhere, I shouldn't even throw out the number because I'm not positive on it, but it's millions of acres, that are in need of treatment. And that's why, I'm pretty excited about, the opportunities that are coming to our area with the Rocky Mountain Restoration Initiative, and then with the Collaborative Forest Restoration program. That'll give us the opportunity to get a lot of good work done in a short amount of time, and avoid situations like they're having over in California.
Is that pine beetle still spreading?
It is, based on, we were able to see the preliminary results for the 2019 flights, and it appears things are kind of leveling off, which is a good sign. But it is still, continuing to expand, but it's not expanding as fast as it has since the 2012 to 2018 expansion was pretty dramatic. And then from 2018 to 2019, then it kind of seemed to level off, and hopefully that's kind of what it does. It just levels off and even starts heading in a downward trajectory. But with all that we have going on with regards to the Lone Pine environmental assessment, and then Salter, The hope is that we still have a chance to, have an effect or an influence anyways on, how the beetle is gonna operate here in that area. And if we can get enough, treatment in the right amount of time, just lessen the impact that it's currently having. Yeah, we're not gonna get rid of it, but, we're hoping to have, there again, an impact on it not being as aggressive as it has been.
The good wet years helps you, doesn't it?
Oh, it definitely.
Another good winter will help that.
Right.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. All right, thank you.
Derek. I think next on our agenda we have the planning department. Good morning.
Morning.
Jane. Good morning, Don. Good
morning.
Mr. Roses.
Sorry about the impaired, I was out in the truck.
No, I think
Can-
we have a
can-
PUD for Brian and Kathy Lyons.
Yeah, can we go ahead and deal with Herman's?
Oh, you should-
Item
yeah,
first.
We can change up the schedule, sure. Okay, we'll move to item 2, and that's a revisitation of the commercial rezoning for countryside disposal.
Correct.
Sent us out an email, Don, that said commercial isn't the proper categorization for.
Yeah, it doesn't account for the storage of his totes and containers.
Okay. So what does the planning department have to recommend to us?
Well, at a minimum, we would need to go with light industrial. We had recommended the heavy industrial just for the type of trucks and the truck activity on the site. That's if you classify his trucks more than what a semi-truck would be, closer to what heavy equipment is classified as. But under the land use code, the storage of the containers is specifically listed under light industrial zoning.
Mm-hmm. So would that cover everything that Mr. Rosas is doing with his operation?
It should, yeah. There's, I mean, obviously he didn't want to go to heavy industrial, so the next step would be the light industrial use.
Mm-hmm.
And unless he's doing some serious heavy work on his trucks and stuff, I mean, that's appropriate there.
Yeah, the only heavy stuff I do is like change a tire or brakes. Otherwise, motor-wise, it goes out to Rick O'Brien, and he does all my mechanic work.
Mm-hmm.
But the only heavy trucks I have in there is when I do get a shipment of trash cans. The big semi stays there for about 2 days, and then they're gone.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the only, is that what you're talking about, that?
Yeah, it's just.
That's a delivery to you, not
Yeah.
a permanent. That's if
Right.
somebody's delivering
Correct.
containers to you. Okay.
I got some questions. What is the difference between commercial and industrial?
Right there, commercial. Commercial uses shall mean uses engaged in the sale, rental, service, and distribution of goods and the provisions of services other than those classified under other use types.
And
So if it's specifically spelled out in another zoning description, then it doesn't apply to the commercial description.
And if, so is there anything different in cost? Is there any different effect to the people of which classification is classified as? Is there more permitting? Is there additional costs? What's the difference?
The difference is.
Besides what it says?
Difference is just uses by right. Light industrial entails automotive repair, light small engine repair, different classifications of a commercial operation. It's a little more impactful to the area, but it's not any different as far as a zoning cost, a fee. It's just a uses by right.
No fees are,
I have
fees are
a-
the same.
I have a question for Don. So, in the category that we're talking about, in my use, is it better for me in the long run to go light industrial or heavy industrial? I don't. I'm kind of confused there.
I understand what you're saying, Mr. Rhodey, because reading under this heavy industrial, it talks about the exact things that you're doing: cleaning of equipment, work or process involving solvents, solid waste or sanitary waste transfer stations, recycling establishments. There's some of that doesn't apply to you, but some of it does seem to fit what you're doing there, because you obviously clean your trucks and stuff there. Is that correct? Yeah.
I do take them to the car wash and wash them, get the heavy grease off it. That way it's not on the yard, but I do kind of rinse them off like my regular pickup and things like that. But
What's your recommendation, Don? Well, before you go there.
Go back to how we started?
Yeah, no, not really how it started. I wanted to tie that one into, because on our agenda, which was the first one, was this Brian and Kathy Lyons and this Blue Door subdivision. Is this the dollar store that we're talking about?
No. This used to be where the Hotsy washing company was.
Oh.
Right straight west of Triad.
Now?
Right now, they've got their,
They have
what are they
a
running in there?
petroleum repair.
Oh, okay. So I was confused on that, but I know there was a conversation about a dollar store, catacorner to the
M&M,
M&M. Is that correct?
correct.
And what would the zoning be on that?
commercial.
That's commercial.
Okay.
With the high impact
So
because
with
of the
this-
traffic and the,
With this, could you go, or can you go back to this heavy industrial, light industrial? On Highway 490, or on Highway 160, over by Mancos, they have the environmental liner business, correct?
Simbex, correct.
And what is Sinbec's zoning?
I have no idea.
I believe they're commercial.
I think it's commercial.
Probably.
Okay, well, they're storing environmental lining outside. So would they, what would be the difference between the trash can and the environmental lining? Or what would be the difference if you had a trucking company that had 4 trucks, like Alan Randolph and all the other trucks, and they burn oil to heat their shops, and they have 20 cans, 55-gallon barrels of oil? Would, how many storage containers, how many barrels of oil before your industrial versus commercial?
I don't know. We'd have to look at each one specifically.
See, and that's the problem. That answer right there tells me that our land use code is inefficient. It doesn't, it's in our whim what we decide that it should be. And that's why I think that the land use code should be changed and not necessarily what we're doing with him.
But it does specifically say what he is doing, storing his containers under light industrial. And originally in 2017, that was his application, was a high impact permit and rezoning to light industrial. And through the whole process, it got changed to a certificate of use.
But he was recommended by Montezuma County that he should be zoned that. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
So one thing the government never does is they never say they're wrong. They're always right. Well, I can tell you what, government is wrong every once in a while. And I believe this is right here is a case of it being wrong. Because if they are commercial, storing that environmental liner, you can drive by there in 15 minutes and you can see what I'm talking about, then there should be no difference between them and his storage containers, in my opinion.
But we got to follow the guidelines of the land use code.
Well,
You don't
back to
just
that.
change the code, you go by the
But we can't
code.
change the code. See, that's the thing. These commissioners are the policymakers.
Correct, and there's a
very smart
process.
commissioner told me something one time. They said, if your land use code, if your policy is wrong, we have the authority to change that policy.
But there's a process you have to go through.
Exactly. 30 days and a vote.
No,
No.
It goes to P and Z with your
Well, it can go to P&Z,
recommendation.
but there is a process.
And that's 35 days to respond, and then they send it back to BOCC, and then you do a public hearing.
Minimum of about 60 to 75 days.
Okay, 60 to 75 days. We start today, 75 days later, we did the right thing.
Under this instance, there's 100
Well, we're
different
gonna
ways,
change- no,
100
we're gonna
different
change the whole
activities that you
We're
can
gonna
look
change
at.
the whole code to where it actually makes sense. Because it doesn't make sense that we don't know if you can store 20 barrels of oil, or if you can store a semi-load of environmental liner, or if you can store trash cans. It's too vague. We're picking what we think we should, that you can store and what you can't. It's wrong.
Well, incidental storage tells me, I mean, that's part of,
It elaborates more in another section. I mean, it gives a list of about 20, 25 items for each zoning. So, I mean, everything's not just a one-page quick glance.
Well, there's more than 25 items out there that's stored in this county, I can guarantee you. There's thousands. Okay, you know, I'm not opposed to whatever we change his to, but I really think that this is a subject that we need to zero in on and we need to fix.
Well, you're not going to be able to ever cover each and everything specifically. You can't say roll a line 1 to 5.
I love what you just said. Then why are we picking anything?
Because
Why are we
it
picking
does
a trash
fall
can
under.
over an environmental liner? I mean,
Incidental
if we can't
storage
pick-
is different than commercial. I don't know what Sembecs are. You're bringing something in that I haven't looked into, so I can't answer that.
Well,
And I'm not gonna evaluate it right now because that's a different business. We could go to 15 businesses in the county if you want to and make everybody start changing everything, but I don't think that's productive.
no, I don't want to do that. I want to fix the deficiency in our land use code so we don't have to do that.
Well, then you'd open it up so everybody's compliant and not have to change anything, and that would mean you just pretty much let anything
So
go.
we pick and choose who's compliant and who isn't.
So that, I mean, then you just don't have a code, and then everybody's pretty well good to go that way.
What,
it's tough to get everything defined specifically.
You
I
can,
understand.
I mean, that's why it's reviewed and
It
evaluated,
leaves you some discretion in what you.
site specific.
You would have a list that is a mile long.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
you could have 5 barrels of oil and have a perfectly clean triad-looking lot, or you could have the rest of Blue Door, looks like a train wreck and a airplane crashed.
so you just described his operation, the triad operation, because I drive by there all the time. It's very clean.
And that's heavy industrial. A construction yard is heavy industrial, and all you do is park your equipment there.
What kind of construction do you do? Mr., I don't even remember your name.
Rose.
Mr. Rose, what kind of construction do you do?
I don't consider it construction.
It's not
It's not
construction.
construction, it's hauling trash.
But what I'm saying is a construction yard that is just parking their equipment there
Yeah.
is zoned
Are you just
heavy,
parking your equipment?
heavy industrial, even though they're not making, manufacturing, or anything on site.
I'm parking my trucks there, have the dumpsters there, and I
Yeah.
grease my trucks.
Right.
Um,
I think the light industrial is going to cover whatever Mr. Rosas does. I mean, I think it gives you leeway and discretion in what that defines as incidental storage and treatment, packaging, processing. I mean, it covers a myriad of things. And I think that's probably a more apt category than maybe the commercial is, although commercial is, they're all nebulous in their own way. They all are wide open to interpretation of what distribution of goods, service, rental, sales, all those are, which I.
And that's the part that scares me, because I'm not thinking of Mr. Rosa right now.
Yeah.
I'm thinking 10 years from now, which I'm not going to be a commissioner, so it won't matter, but whoever is going to be a commissioner, there's going to be a change down there. You might sell your business to waste manager, whatever, I'm just speculating, but there is going to be a change. And so my question is this: if there is a change and it is zoned light industrial, then that means, and the whole fight about this whole thing was the people around it did not want it to be light industrial. Are we doing the right thing by making it light industrial 10 years down the road, or would it be better being commercial 10 years down the road and limit what actually would be put back in there?
Would the golf course next door to me, would that be commercial, or would that be?
Be commercial.
Is it commercial?
I don't know.
I mean, it's a golf course. I was just kind of curious, you know, how they were saying that the south side is not commercial, but I do have the golf course next door to me. I was just kind of wondering if that's.
That's probably still zoned AR 10 to 34.
I would think so.
It's still zoned ag.
It
Well,
may be
Mr. Wilson,
AGZ.
If he doesn't care, I don't care. But I can tell you in the end, 10 years down the road, if we don't fix this right here, we're going to have a problem. I
And the
can tell you.
the neighbors weren't complaining of it being zoned commercial or industrial. They were complaining of the business being there, not the zoning.
Well,
And
Which zoning would provide the most protection, Mr. Rosen?
Light industrial.
Well, heavy industrial would cover anything and everything that he might get into. But if you exceed threshold standards and you have a high impact permit, no matter what you're zoned, you can be commercial and still need a high impact permit.
Because you have exceeded the threshold standards.
so like for now, for 10 years down the road, I'm better off with a heavy industrial, correct?
It
Between
covers,
now and then.
it covers
If
pretty
I
much
go-
everything.
It'll cover everything. If I go light industrial, then it's gonna cover me for 5 years, 3 years, until it changes. Is that what you're saying?
No,
I'm just,
No.
there's just different uses by right. I mean, there's a list of 27 of them, and then it's stuff that's similar to that. So you have to go to each section and differentiate what's addressed there. I mean, it's not just what it feels like that day type deal, or in 5 years it changes automatically. If you're light industrial now and you do something or want to do something that's more impactful, then down the road you could come back and rezone as heavy industrial or stay light industrial and do a high impact permit application.
I'm kind of confused there.
Which is what you were
So,
doing. Which is what he was doing to begin with.
Yeah, it's not as easy as it looks, is it?
look what they could put in.
You can take 2 pages of the land use code and you have to understand.
So it looks like in the long run, I would be better off with a high impact with a heavy industrial. I think that's the way we,
That covers you for everything,
so that's what we need to do.
unless you start bringing in school kids and
School kids, no.
and a petting zoo.
Yeah.
But if you do a heavy industrial zone in there with A3 through 10 zoning all around him, that's I mean, that puts a whole different blush on all the surrounding property around him.
So it changes again.
Now you understand the cycle we've been through.
Yeah, I do.
But it cannot be commercial. It does not fit the land use code.
It can be commercial. The commissioners change the land use code.
Well, you can't just change it for.
Yeah, we can.
You can't
Yes,
just change it
well,
for
I
every
tell you-
other application.
We can fix the land use code. We've did it multiple times as commissioners, and to tell us that if we find a deficiency in our land use code and we're not allowed to change it, that's a false statement. Because
What
we
I'm
did it in the
saying
past.
is you can't just change the commercial definition when it's covered by a different zoning in the code already. That's what it specifically says there. It's good for uses of commercial unless specifically identified for other zonings. If it's covered somewhere else,
We have
you
the
don't
authority to
overlap it.
change anything in the land use code we want.
Well, that's fine, you can do whatever you want, I'll follow it. I'm just telling you what it says now and where it needs to be. And yes, the whole book is subjective when you get to certain things. And it doesn't cover 385 things specifically. It covers 200 and you have to use your judgment. It's no matter
My
what,
judgment,
no matter
if
what you
we zone
write.
it- My judgment, if we zone it heavy industrial, is it's gonna hurt the neighbors 10 years down the road.
So we zone it for heavy industrial,
No, light.
No.
No,
Light- I'm
light industrial.
light industrial.
And he still has, he cannot grow 10%.
Right, without.
Yeah, but that would be with any kind of.
That
zone,
goes
right?
with
That goes
everything.
anything,
But he still has his high impact permit.
yes.
So I'll have a high impact permit with my light industrial use,
Correct.
correct?
Here's your light industrial zone. It's over here's your outdoor storage in conjunction with premises being used. Storage is in the rear portion of the lot, or you screen your fences.
Mr. Rosas?
Yes.
Do you still, is your desire and your wish, like we originally intended, is that you will move this operation at some point in time?
Yes.
That you don't plan to stay there?
Well, I don't, I plan to stay there.
As far as your home and your
As
residence?
far as my home and all
Right.
that, yeah, I plan to
As far
stay
as
there.
your business
As
and
far as
your-
my business, I'm hoping if I won the lottery and I can move it somewhere, I will.
Or if your business increases and you become financially capable of going to a bank and borrowing money to buy a different location or move your,
In the long run, I would
Right.
like to get everything out of there and let that be my home. I like to just go to one spot, like you gentlemen come here to your work, then you go home. You don't have to live here next door, you know. I don't want that.
so could we do a light industrial zoning or with a high impact permit with a given, a date certain on the length of time that zoning is going to last?
Well, once it's set, shouldn't it be set forever?
Well,
So
but
I
if we
do-
set it, but not if we set it for a
We
certain
can put
time
a
frame.
contingency.
What's that?
We can put a contingency.
For a time frame on that for it to be revisited and
I guess, yeah, you could put a stipulation that it'll be reviewed in 1, 3, 5, 10 years, and then I guess somebody else would have to
Yeah.
continue that, or if the business has ceased to operate, it would revert back to AR zoning.
I would like to do that. I'd like to see Mr. Rosas continue his goal of moving that trash operation to a different location, one that's zoned properly for that type of business.
What kind of years
But-
are you?
I would give him 3 years.
I'd like to have a little bit longer if you don't mind, just to be on the safe side. I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Let's put some pressure on you.
Yeah.
You had 2.5 last week.
How long you been in business?
Yeah, I got a lot of pressure, especially right now that we gotta do recycling. So now I gotta buy a pickup with a trailer to do recycling. We got
How long
recycling.
have you been in business?
2 years,
2 years.
yeah,
And
actually.
you've quadrupled your,
I don't think I
Number of
I
trash
got
trucks,
bigger.
number of trucks that you're operating now is up to 4.
3.
3.
I got 3 trucks. I have 5 trucks. The bank owns 5 trucks. I got 3 working trucks.
Okay.
One of them just got laid over, so that's out of service. And the other one we're using for parts. So I actually have 3 trucks on the road.
Okay, in 2 years, so double that'll be 6 in 2 more years, and if your business continues to grow, then I think 3 years would be a good time to revisit this. I want him to achieve his goal. I want him to continue to work towards that.
Yeah. Well, I guess can we continue this? I was called Friday to come in to just do this. Now, I like to have my lawyer to come in and I'm just kind of confused. It went from light industrial, heavy industrial, and okay. I just want to try to keep everybody happy,
Yeah.
you know, and
You see your business increasing, do you not?
yes, because I started with nothing.
Right.
So it is increasing, yes.
Yeah, so you're, and I would like to see you continue that. And I think with your continued success in your business, then it's going to give you more room to achieve your goal of moving your operation to another piece of property. And so I'd like to see you continue to pursue that, and pursue that with enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I tell you, Commissioner, I see your point, but I think we're going to have the other commissioner, and I hate to do that to you, but I'm such a private property rights guy, and I don't want the government telling me how long I can run my business before I have to move it. And I just...
well, this doesn't tell him how long he has to move it. It
Well,
has
3
to-
years,
gives
we told him
time
3 years.
to revisit this.
But I don't want the government to give me a timeline. I don't think that's fair. I don't think they should say, I build a hay shed and I plan on moving the hay shed. You know, I say I'm going to move it in 5 years, but I don't want the government to tell me that, force me to move my hay shed in 5 years. For me, the solution was to change the land use code, make him commercial. In 10 years, whatever he does with his property, his neighbors have a lighter, defined commercial business to deal with, so that they don't put a petrochemical plant in there in its place. That is what I was thinking.
If the property changes and the use changes, then nobody's putting a petrochemical plant in there without
Well,
some
there is a
kind of...
precedence there that it was already heavy industrial once.
Correct.
And if I had a good lawyer, and I bought that, and I said, and I looked at our land use code, and it said petrochemical plant is acceptable for heavy industrial use defined. And you told me, no, I'm going to get my lawyer and I'm going to sue your ass because you're right there in your land use code. It says I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
So I disagree. Even though it has to go through the process, I've already opened up the door for that. It's the same thing with Mr. Ebert, or on the 80 acres that he wanted to put in the RV park. And he only wanted to use 3 acres, but he wanted to make the 80 acres commercial.
Right.
And it's already happened. He did the 3 acres, he put in the RV park, because they put in that new bike trail, somebody came to that man and offered him. They wanted to buy everything he owned there, because they wanted to make that RV park bigger.
All
What
right.
we did as a county is we said, no, the 3 acres is what you're doing commercial, and we left the 77 acres agriculture.
Right.
But we're
That's not
fixing
kind
to
of-
make
yeah.
this thing where you could put in a petro industry deal in the middle of it if you wanted, and this needs to be fixed. So we're gonna just have to wait for Commissioner Candelaria, or we're gonna have to. I don't like numbers. I don't like how government gives numbers. We give numbers on how many cattle you can kill a year on a feed yard. We give numbers on how many trucks you can own. We give numbers on how many bales of hay you can store. I mean, when is it going to end? I think that Montezuma County, the reason that we're growing is this simple. Because in La Plata County, they look over your shoulder. The people live in Montezuma County because they don't like the government looking over their shoulder. I just went and bought a storage container in La Plata County, and they've got all these they got these storage containers up there in an industrial park, and their new land use code is telling them they're stacked too high, so them things are 8 and 6. That means they're 20 feet tall when you put 2 on top of each other, and they're telling them that they need to put a fence all the way around in an industrial park so you can't see the storage containers. And then they want them to get a permit for the storage container. Well, let me tell you how stupid this is. Those people have junk scattered all around their house. They buy the storage container and they take all that junk and they put it in the storage container. So now you don't see all the junk, you see the storage container. That's how stupid government is. I don't know you, I don't use your trash company, but you've been having the runaround for, in my opinion, for 6 months.
And we're still running.
Yeah?
We're still circling.
We're still circling. Well,
The merry-go-round's going around again.
I just got notice Friday. Don called me Friday and says, "Hey, can you come in on Tuesday? Well, we can rezone this," and so that's what I thought.
That's because if we leave it commercial, you're hindered with your
Right.
operation.
And I
Or you can
understand
put
that.
all your containers at the landfill.
Yeah. But I understand what you're saying, and that's why I came in and I didn't bring this.
Oh, I don't. Yeah,
I
that's.
didn't bring
So
her
it's
with me.
it's only those containers.
Yeah.
If there was
I don't
some-
have no commercial, big roll-off containers. I'm gonna stay away from that and leave that to everybody else. There's already 6 companies that are starting to do that now, and they're starting to have them in their yard. So I'm just gonna stay away from that and just do residential and small commercial.
That's a whole different truck too.
Yeah, that's a whole different truck. And now that
Down
we're,
County Road 25, we've got roll-off stored in a residential.
yeah.
I mean, it's gonna open up a whole, it's gonna open up a whole
It's
can of
just,
worms.
it's just gonna be,
Right down 25 Road on Bitterwater's roll-off storage
Yeah.
and stuff. They've got them right down there.
and they also have some down County Road G.
Yeah.
You go down 25, you go west on G, and there's a lot of them roll-offs over there set down, and who knows if they're permitted or not, but,
What do we do? What do we do, John?
We can do, I think, a number of things. I mean, if the commissioners disagree on the zoning right now, then we can't do anything with the zoning, and we do have to continue it at Mr. Rose's request and also just out of necessity. But, in addition to potentially changing the land use code and other options, I mean, you can do you can put contingencies or stipulations in there. We can allow Mr. Rosa or the trash company to do what he's doing with either a certification of use or put it in the high impact permit that this is what he's allowed to do. I mean, it doesn't fit commercial use in our land use code, so he's out of compliance. So it doesn't really make sense for us to call it that without either rezoning it or changing the land use code. I do think we could allow him with some sort of exemption, some certificate of use, and allow him to do what he's doing if that's what the goal is. I think that might have been what was contemplated initially, though, but then he exceeded that, and that's why he's back here. Is that I think they tried to just circumvent a lot of the process by saying, hey, look, we're going to give you a certificate of use to do A, B, C, D, and E. And that's how it started, but then it grew past that. So if we do that, then if it grows again, he's going to be back here.
So could you just do an exemption today that allows him to store his containers?
or I can keep running my business and keep going.
Well, there's no,
Yeah.
the commissioners have already voted for you to keep running your business.
Okay.
This is more of a,
The zoning.
yeah, the zoning's more of a county issue.
So we could add an incidental storage exemption to that commercial, or is it?
Not on the,
No, then you get,
I mean, that's almost what was tried in the certificate of
Yeah.
use, right? Isn't that basically what the idea was with
The
that?
certificate of use was in lieu of zoning. That's
Well,
all
let's
the
try this, because
certificate
this is
of
gonna
use
drag
was
on.
for.
I move that we approve the light industrial use for countryside zone, or countryside trash
Disposal.
disposal. I'm
There you
sorry.
go. It's all right.
More than 3 words, like.
so
If we
moving
get-
from a commercial to a light industrial use.
That way you can keep dynamite there if he wants. It says explosive materials.
I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded to engage Countryside Waste Disposal to a light industrial use on his property located at
Road H.
Road 8, Cortez, Colorado. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good morning.
Will there be any contingencies?
Wasn't in the motion.
No.
No.
So we're good.
Good, now you need to get your driveway.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
get
now
that
into
gravel.
Road and Bridge, yeah.
Yeah, well, I was gonna go talk to Rob. Who was that? I was gonna talk to him Friday, but then you called and said, come over here, so I haven't, but I'll
They
get a
don't
hold of
work
him.
on Fridays.
Oh, they don't? Oh, okay, so Monday through Thursday, 4/10. Okay, I'll get a hold of Rob, and he's over there by the
Yeah.
golf course, right?
Road and
Okay.
Bridge Department, they're off 145.
Okay, I'll get a hold of him, and I'll call you if I have any questions.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Have a good
Herman.
morning, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right, now we're back to item number 1. Brian and Kathy Lyons, are they here this morning?
Yes.
Watch this one.
Hey, it's zone heavy industrial already.
I'll just be
Because she
quiet.
wanted to do whatever she wanted to do in the future.
Yes, sir.
It's in Dropbox, Jack.
This is in Blue Door subdivision.
Mm-hmm.
The entire subdivision is zoned mixed use, so they have everything under the sun in that subdivision.
Okay.
Including residents and
Residential, agricultural,
Heavy industrial.
high industrial, heavy industrial, light industrial,
You name it, it's in there.
commercial.
Trailer
I know
park.
Blair Towing's there, and they got his
Everything.
shop is connected right to his house.
Yep.
So it's a 3-acre lot. There's 3 buildings on there. There's actually 3 addresses on there. And they're interested in doing a commercial PUD with the approximate leased areas shown on the map.
Is this just to, if we agree, or what is?
Yeah,
This is
this
just
is
a
just-
preliminary sketch plan, just to see, because of the size of the lot, if this fits into what you could approve if we go forward with the PUD.
I agree.
If you want approval, then they will go forward.
Mhm. What are your plans for that?
We've had several people approach us since the Hotsy business went out to purchase that specific building with acreage, and actually the gentleman from the disposal company was one of them.
The what?
The gentleman that was just in here, he's
Mhm.
one of the ones that came in and approached myself. And we were under the impression that because it was 3 acres and it was within a subdivision, we couldn't. But when I further checked and pulled the history, the covenants requiring it to be considered a subdivision have expired. There's no renewal on it. And so that's all we were looking at. If we can split it into 3 1-acre pieces at this time, the only intent is to then clear up the Hotsy, well, I call it the Hotsy building because that's what everybody knows it as. But that specific building and acreage on that side of it.
So you're wanting to split this Hotsy building and an acre off and get it,
But in the meantime, while we're here too, if we can split, I would like to split it into 1-acre pieces just for future so that we can have our options available. And it does have,
Is there any of those down there?
It's a PUD.
And is there any other 1-acre parcels down there?
I don't know, if it's a
There's some in
P,
there that are less than an acre.
Oh.
There's some that are a little more than an acre. That subdivision is everything.
So what is this zoned right now, or what is the,
It's
right,
in heavy
right now,
industrial.
it's 3 acre, heavy industrial zoning.
She wants to do a PUD.
Well, if it's a PUD, then you're not subdividing.
No.
It would stay one property and you would lease the separate parcels or buildings. If you wanted to subdivide, then it's,
I want it in, we would like it in 3 separate pieces, so.
Would be
you
a
do want to
subdivision.
break this up into 3 individual 1 acre lots?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then
Then it would be a subdivision.
we need to do something different. If that's our goal, is to get these each individually
right?
broken out, then we need to go into some kind of a subdivision
Yes.
plan, not a PUD, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay, that
That's
makes
all.
sense.
We just wanted to come and ask before we start.
Yeah. I think-
Well, I think that it fits. I mean, there, you've got other 1 acre, as Jean said, half, so.
Okay,
I don't see no problem with
Yeah.
it.
I appreciate it.
That's, like they said, everything under the sun's down there.
There's everything there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So I think just continue and do it as a subdivision rather than a PUD.
Okay.
If your goal is
Yeah,
to break
that's
these up
the
into
goal.
individual lots
Yeah.
and sell them or lease them or whatever you plan to do, then
Okay,
I'd say go forward, and your zoning's all in place. You've got it under heavy industrial, so you can do whatever you wish.
okay, I appreciate that, thank you.
Yeah. Does that sound right with you guys?
Yep, we can work with that.
All right.
Okay,
And then you can sell countryside, 1
Yes.
acre, and then we'll have a petrochemical plant, because we changed it to heavy industrial, or light industrial instead of commercial.
well, you
Watch.
know,
No, light industrial doesn't include that.
You can't do that on a light industrial.
Okay, well, it's still, it would
And
have stayed the way that I
the-
said, it would have been
The
better.
high impact permit can be vacated.
We'll see, time will tell.
okay,
Yes, it will.
Okay.
okay, thank
Which
you.
way- Which way to proceed?
I will get with them, I guess,
Okay.
tomorrow
Yeah.
and
Okay.
discuss it. Thank you very much.
All right. Item number 3, Planning Department and after the fact exemption on property owned by Gordon Steves. Is Gordon here today?
Is Gordon here? Okay.
Morning, Gordon.
How you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
All right.
All
Hi,
right.
Gordon.
Hey.
So that's his property on Road 22, east of Kinder Morgan's building. Scroll down there, shack. So, long story short, this single lot development, well, actually, it's nothing. It's a non-compliant parcel. Apparently it was deeded back into the Blair family and never went through the process. So in 2014, he came to BOCC with the subject property being 3.01 acres, but under a different configuration. But he never, he got approval for it, but he never finished with the platting or recording of anything. Now he's back to see if he can legally do a resolution exemption after the fact, but do it under 2.75 acres versus 3 acres by shortening that east boundary of the way it's assessed on our county maps right now, moving that just like 48, 49 feet to the west.
To the west.
So he's got, where that fence line is kind of in a drainage. So he would prefer to keep that extra 50 feet on the east side of his farm ground. And the people that are leasing the house on that property are interested in purchasing it, but they're not interested in any land to go with it. So he's trying to protect his ground there with his rest of his 156 acres and get this piece of property legally created through the process.
So that they can go in and get financing and whatnot.
Yeah.
Purchase.
Well, yeah, I want it to all be legal, all through you guys and everything else. I just don't want to give up farm ground. That's my whole thing.
And they don't want the additional land?
No, they don't. They've been comfortable with the chunk they've had, that they've been leasing. And then, so, I wanted to give them some more, but I didn't realize I'd have to give them so much more. But if that's what it takes to do it, then that's what we will do.
So how close will that move that east boundary in towards the house there?
Just under 50 feet.
50 feet.
Roughly 50 feet is what we're talking.
Giving up about 3/10, 30.35 acres.
Yeah, it's just over 2.75 acres.
Mm-hmm.
And
with that line there.
I'm sorry. The other proposed layout went north and south versus east and west, and it encompasses his buried irrigation lines. So he doesn't want to give that up and have to reconfigure his whole system.
And all that over it. Makes sense to me.
So
knows all about digging up them.
So
lots of experience.
Basically, the sketch plan is to see if he could get by with the 2.75 acres versus the minimum 3 acre before we do the after the fact resolution exemption to get everything created legally.
Makes sense to me.
It makes sense to me. It makes sense to the people wanting to buy. It makes sense for your operation. And
yeah, exactly.
I'd say yes.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Okay, well, we'll move forward with it.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Sorry, bother you.
Okay.
That's all we got.
That's all you got this morning. Dang.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into our county attorney's report.
The only thing I wanted to update on was, if the commissioners recall from our mediation, you probably learned that PAX was threatening us with a new lawsuit that they've now filed, which is an inverse condemnation claim that they're claiming.
Can you speak into the mic, please?
I feel like I am, but I guess I'm not close enough to it. So that's been filed, and that's all I wanted to update on was the inverse condemnation case that PAX was telling us they were going to file back at that mediation has now been filed. So we'll respond to that accordingly, and I think that's the only update I really have for you.
All righty. James Dietrich, Natural Resources.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Okay, just want to start off with an update on where we're at with the breakwater and the grant that we're pursuing for that. I think we're very, very close. I've got the narrative all done on the grant. This thing is ready pretty much to submit. The last thing we're waiting on is getting our final numbers for the cost estimate. Okay, and so what's coming down to with that is that we've worked with our engineers on that. I think the costs are coming in astronomical for what we're looking at. Roughly, I'm going to say they're probably about 50% higher than what I would have expected. They're coming in about 50% higher on the wave eater system. Obviously the tire system we thought, but they are coming very high. And so I've talked with them about that. And I'm telling them that, that's a project killer if you're going to come in with these kind of numbers. So we're doing some value engineering on that. I can tell you that one of the lingering design complications that we've got is how to accommodate for that 68 feet vertical.
Elevation change.
That is a really big deal. When you get that thing anchored out there in a single position, we lose 68 feet. You got 68 feet of slack line, and that thing is just going to drift and jumble. So we've got to have a way to pull that slack line up and keep it tight as that reservoir falls. And conversely, we got to let it out as the reservoir comes up. So that is a design complication. So one of the things we took a look at is, we have a lot of materials up there. We have a lot of tires. We have a lot of those floats. So I went and did a hard count on tires and a hard count on floats to see if we would have enough of that material to create these platforms, which would allow you to plant a winch on it and raise and lower it, and that would accommodate for your vertical fluctuation. Well, there are also some complications with these winch platforms. I'll get into that. To cut through the chase on the tires and barrels, I counted 144 barrels. That gives us enough for 4.8 platforms. We ideally want to have 5 platforms. So we haven't got enough barrels to do all 5 platforms, although there is value to those barrels. So doing a hard count on the tires actually gets even worse. There's a giant stack of tires down there, but I think we've gone out, we've looked at them. But again, it just validated they're all different sizes. Even the width, where those tires attach to the rims, you want to have something that's a uniform width, because what they do is they use a jack to spread those things apart, put those barrel floats in, and they're supposed to pinch on those barrels to hold them in place. Well, some of those are going to be about the right width, but I would say the vast majority of them are much wider, which leaves us with the problem of those barrels bouncing out during storms. And we've already got that problem down there with the tires that we've already used. That was a complication for that first length of the tire breakwater. And sure enough, barrels do come out of some of those tires during storms. So in a nutshell, I don't believe we have enough tires to actually be able to construct 5 uniform platforms and make that work. So that's looking to be cost prohibitive anyway. So I started taking a look and doing some value engineering on that and thinking, well, what we need is just a platform. It doesn't have to be a battleship, some kind of just a standard platform. They make these prefabricated swimming platforms, which are essentially a floating dock. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, well, we can probably do some value engineering to construct platforms that are based on that principle that would be much more cost effective. So as you can see, I started going through a couple of design iterations on that. I used basically the layout from the platforms that we've already got designed, and then started looking at more cost-effective floats to put underneath it. And sure enough, those floating dock platforms, the floats you can pick up. I found this particular model for $288. You're going to need several of them, but they're still going to be more cost-effective than the tires. Also taking a look at the winch system. Okay, the winch systems that we've got out there on the existing system are heavy duty. Those are 20,000 pound winches. They require 2 of them. And those winches are being spec'd out at over $10,000 a piece. So that's way more than we need. So I'm taking a look at just a more cost-effective winch system, and also the winch riser. So between the 2 of those, you can get that for about $1,500. To alleviate the system where you need 2 winches, what I'm thinking is we put 2 weights out on the bottom with a line in between. We use one vertical line that goes down to the depth to where it picks up that line that's in between the two winches, two weights, and we have a sheave down there so that essentially a pulley, so that cable can move, and that way we can raise that up, and we'll keep it in 2 positions, so that we'll keep the breakwater from moving laterally. But you're also simplifying it by using one winch system. The complication with these winch systems is that when you drop something down in there and anything's rubbing up against that cable, is just going to instantly get sawn in 2. that water is just absolutely relentless. It's 24/7, 365 days a week doing this kind of stuff, and it will saw anything in two that's touching. Okay, so they used a system off of the last design that used pulleys, and I've I've kind of used that system, and we think that we can adapt it so that we have one line that runs down and use one pulley instead of two. That will help save a lot right there. The wave eater people got really interested in all this, and they actually used to build docks. And so once I started sharing some of the design ideas with them, they kind of got really hot on this. And what they're going to do is take a crack at doing a prefabricated dock system, which is essentially a swimming platform with these winches attached to it, and give us one cost for the wave eater system as well as those floating winch platforms, all designed together. Part of the reason that this is important too is that they designed their entire system with stainless steel hardware. Everything that we've got designed up the lake right now is done with galvanized metal. So if you put the two together, you're getting that electric conducivity. And essentially what's going to happen is in about 3 months, you're going to rot through any of that galvanized material, and it'll just fall apart. So you can't put the two pieces together. So one of the ways that we've looked at working around that is actually encasing these floating dock platforms with wood. And so we can make that connectivity happen with eye bolts through the wood, and we avoid all that, anything that conducts electricity that way. So we're getting there on this. It has been quite a process. We're at the cusp of this. It is due the 24th. I believe we're going to be able to pull the trigger on this. I'll let you know next week for sure. I'll bring in we'll have to have a letter that, basically a resolution that says you're in support of it. Yeah. So we'll have the final figures on that. Right now, what my estimate is coming in at is $488,000. And our match would be about $138,000. So any of the engineering that we do on this, and we are going to be required to do some more engineering, but that will work as in-kind match. So it doesn't raise the price of this, but we can use that as that in-kind match. I've also approached the town of Dolores. Actually, approached all the municipalities in the county for letters of support. I think that the town of Dolores may be willing to contribute some financial support. I'm going to ask them for $25,000, and they seem like they may be willing to go that far. I will ask the other municipalities for the same amount. We'll see what we can get out of it. And there are also some other grants that I will also be pursuing that will help us to make up our in-kind match on that. Our objective is obviously to drive our in-kind match down as far as we possibly can. And I think we've got a pretty affordable project for what we're getting. That vertical rise and fall is going to be, it's a killer for us, and it really is hard.
Because they deal with this.
Same deal. They raise it up and down, and And so, Larry Don, the original design that we have was based off of the Lake Powell stuff, so it's super heavy duty, way more than what we really need.
So when I was in, I think it's called Coeur d'Alene, it's by Spokane, Washington, and it's a beautiful lake. They actually use the docks as the break, the water break. The price of this dock, I can't, it's hard for me to read. It's 36 inches long, that's right? Or is it 72 inches?
Well, that's, the dimension of the float.
So the float, the float.
Yeah, 36 by 72.
So that's 6 feet, right?
Right.
And it's $288. And how long is this thing? The
length of the breakwater, or the length of
the length of the breakwater?
The length of the breakwater is 600 feet in total.
Okay, so 600 times $288.
But those things are just floats that go in to help suspend your dock. They're flotation devices. They're not water breaks, are they? I mean,
that's correct. They just go.
But if you had at Coeur d'Alene, I mean, I don't know anything about this. I'm the last person, but at Coeur d'Alene, they use the docks as the water break.
Right.
So if a dock is cheaper than a wave eater, why wouldn't you just put the dock? And I mean, I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question.
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, that's some of the stuff that we're doing the value engineering
I mean, you
on.
go to Lake Powell and you watch the boats come in,
Mhm.
and on the other side of the dock, there's no wake. But where the boats come in,
Yeah.
it does the same thing.
Mhm.
I don't
Then
know.
you just have to build your superstructure over these floats and stuff. I mean, I don't know if they'd want that much dock. I guess you could use it for a floating dock area.
What Coeur
where you
d'Alene,
can-
what they did was they used it for, what do they call those things where they keep all the boats inside?
Well, marina.
They made a marina, and
Mhm.
then they,
You could tie your boats up to it and do.
yeah, but well, there was hundreds of boats inside of it, and then they had a ladder where you could actually walk down the dock, and then they had because they had sailboats and stuff, and you had to go climb 3 stories, and
Go back over.
and they go back over so the boats could go under, but yet you could use the whole dock system to go all the way around to fish, or. Anyway, I think I'm getting us way into the weeds.
So I think, Larry, Don, so those are things that we're evaluating. I think one of the issues on those is the docks are generally going to be too narrow to provide the adequate amount of attenuation. So, because when you look at the system we've got, they're going to be over 13 feet wide, so that helps a lot, just having that width. But you're really onto something, and we have been investigating that, and in fact, that's what Dillon is doing, is they're putting in a dock system. Now, theirs are actually, that very same box is actually made out of concrete. So they have just an incredible amount of mass in association with their floating dock, and so that's what they want to do. It looks good, you can get out there, you walk on it, you can fish off of it, and it is incredibly heavy. So it does do a very good job of wave attenuation. These are super light, and they're going to be like popcorn floating around out there. So
I see. Now, I bet you they had those concrete when you're talking about.
very well might have, yeah. That would be by far the best system.
Was used. You cannot believe how many people was out there. Well,
Yep. Well, if I win the lottery, we'll have that system in as soon as I can get it there.
James, since we're running into galvanized and stainless steel, collaboration of those two, would it be worth us looking at taking that tire, because I'm afraid that tire barrier we have out there is limited life. I mean,
I agree.
It's old, and it's, like you say, there are barrels coming out of it and stuff. Would it be worthwhile to look at maybe discontinuing that and doing the whole thing in this wave eater, and maybe discontinuing the use of that tire rack out there?
That certainly is a possibility, Keenan, and I haven't got an example of the layout that we've been looking at, but the layout sort of does leap to, what you're just saying right there.
Eventually.
Yeah, because I think we may need to reconfigure it to some extent. And if we have the 600 feet, that should give us adequate amount of length. And I think that with a slight repositioning of the 2 ends of that, we've still got a way in and out in deep water that if the existing breakwater went away, we'd still be functional.
Yeah. Because really the true deal of this is protection of that marina operation there from the beating it takes from the waves that are unattenuated coming in there.
Yeah, I think that's accurate, but I think, we don't want to lose sight of the value to the public. General public access is really kind of what we're pitching this on, because really getting people in and off that reservoir safely. And I don't know if you guys have been up there boating and tried to launch boats in really bad windstorms.
it's
And
blowing the boat sideways, and you can't get. It's dangerous.
it really is. All the kids running around and just, utter cat dogs and all kinds of, the utter chaos is just something else. And then your spouse shouting all the direction at you, and I mean to tell you, it is.
Been there.
Yes, I have been there. Yes. I'm actually in this grant, I'm pointing out some of that stuff, and I'm saying, basically, I think we could save a few marriages by putting a breakwater in up there. Okay, well, gentlemen, I'll move on to something else here now. I did want to let you know that the Sage Hen project, the scoping period on that is coming to a close. We've had several comments that have come in from McGrack members. I forwarded those comments to the commissioners. I'm currently crafting, a set of comments from the county. I'm taking things into consideration that we're hearing through those comments, and trying to find ways to address
I would
concerns.
like to comment on one of the comments, and it had to do with the Dolores River boating advocates that were against the project. My question is the boats go on the water, the side-by-sides and ATVs go on the land, and I'm trying to figure out why they have a conflict. They don't even travel on the same. Was very confusing to me why the Dolores River boating was against the ATV.
Well, yeah, I shared that
I
confusion.
guess I've never seen the ATV group go after the boating and say, hey, we don't like your boats on the river, even though we don't drive our. I don't know. I think that's where we always have problems, is that we have one entity is against the other entity, and if they just leave each other alone, we'd all get along better. But
yeah,
that's my opinion about the Dolores River boating advocacy.
Feels like an overstatement of the risk out there on that in a lot of ways. And I'm sharing this with you as an avid boater because I like rafting.
So do I.
And I can tell you that well, first of all, rafting is completely dependent on motors, and not only one motor but two motors at a minimum. And the reason for that is you have to take your raft up to, you got to shuttle it up. You got to run your raft up to the launch. You have to have another vehicle with you to accompany you. Then you have to take that back down to the bottom and leave a vehicle down to the bottom. So it is a very, in terms of the overall carbon footprint, that sport has got a huge carbon footprint. Right down to the very petrochemical raft that you're floating in. And I love mine. I have two of them. But it is very, very intensive in terms of your carbon footprint and the motorized vehicle traffic. So the other point I would make, that as a boater, when I'm boating along a highway or something like that, and I can give you a good example, is the Lower Animas River, where you float all the way down the state line, down to Bondad. You're following that road most of the way down there. When you're on the water, you can barely determine if there's a road there. Just your visual angle, you're sitting so low, if you have any shrubbery associated with that road, you can't see the road. The water really, by and large, overcomes all the road noise. Very, very hard to perceive road noise. And there's a lot of places where that road really does not follow the river. It's quite a ways out. You may have a substantial amount of cottonwood and forest in between. So it seems like very overstated in terms of the impact that additional motorized use would have. And I think the other thing about that is, we're not talking about what's likely to be a steady stream of motorized vehicles. I mean, one of the complaints I've heard is we don't want to become like Moab. Well, I don't think we're ever going to become a Moab. First of all, we're just not a Moab. I mean, you look at the physical landform out there, we are great, but we're not Moab. And I think the fear of becoming a Moab is so overstated at this level. We have got a long ways to go before we are even close to being a Moab. And in terms of all the motorized recreation opportunities here, we are very limited compared to Moab. And every travel management plan that comes through, we get more limited. So,
well, the thing is I brought this up, is there's 3 bridges. This is how simple this plan is. For us to get from Montezuma County to Nucla, to tie into that, we got to cross one of 3 bridges. And that bridge is either the one that goes into the town of Dolores, that bridge is the one that goes below the dam, or the Bradfield Bridge. That's our only choices. So if they don't like the Sage Hen access area, then they should be talking to the town of Dolores and let us take side-by-sides through the town of Dolores, and then we've got to cross that river. But they don't want to do that. So I don't get it. I mean, we got 3 options. Give us one. They won't give us nothing.
Well, I think part of our strategy of picking that particular route is, first of all, it is probably one of the most beautiful routes. It is a highly scenic route. Mm-hmm. Secondly, it is probably one of the more underutilized resources in the county. I mean, they're closing down campgrounds up there because of lack of use, not from increasing use. So, I mean, it is really difficult to get my head around where the argument is on that. So we'll do our best, and we'll address each one of those. I mean, I'll take each one of those concerns serious, and we'll address them. So we also have the Rico West Dolores scoping that's coming up, and its deadline will be the same, October 7th. So I'll continue to do some outreach with the motor. October 7th, yes. It will be the same for the Sage Hen, October 7th.
Those are already gone.
I'm sorry, yes, November 7th, I'm sorry. Sorry. And then the BLM management for their travel management plan, that will be due November 21st. So we're still working through the scoping comments on that also. We will be having a McRack meeting next Thursday at 6 p.m. and we'll continue to work through some of the issues that we're discussing here, as well as anything else that might come up. So. And I think that concludes my report for the day.
Just mention the BLM, and I want to say they've been doing a very good job. They've been doing that Fillsboro expansion, but I wanted to take this opportunity as an elected official to knock the Division of Wildlife. They cross Cache Canyon, and what they usually do is on these trails they stack rocks going into where the water would run. It's dry now, and then they stack rocks going out, which they let them do in this next drainage over. But the Division of Wildlife, Parks and Wildlife, said that they had to put in a bridge for this jumping mouse. And if they didn't put the bridge in, that they would keep the trail closed for a year until next fall before they put this bridge in. So I got two questions. Doesn't the mouse jump? And how does it get over the creek now before there was a trail there? I mean, and does the bridge have to be built, that big for a mouse? Or does it have to be, it's the biggest waste of taxpayer money. And there is no jumping mouse. It's habitat that could work for a potential jumping mouse.
Yeah.
And then 200 yards down is because my father's private property, and we have a bridge for side-by-sides to go over. We have a culvert.
So there's a jumping point there.
Can't the mouse walk? It's just, anyway, I just want to take a shot at the Parks and Wildlife because it's pretty stupid.
Okay, I'm going to reserve any comments on mouse traps at this point. So I guess I have nothing more.
It's similar to up on the rim, up on the rim in the Forest Service. They've got potential owl habitat up there, potential, and they've got it segregated out. And this goes back a long ways. I asked if there's any. Have they ever seen any? And I don't think it's spotted owl. I think it's Mexican owl. I believe is what it is. And I said, has there ever been a Mexican owl in this area? No, but that's potential habitat for them because it meets certain parameters that they could live there. And I thought, so you've got this stretch of land on the Dolores Rim segregated out where you're not going to allow things to happen for a potential Mexican owl habitat. And some days it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. And this is along those lines too. Doesn't make any sense. But it doesn't have to make sense, does it?
So I guess the last thing I'll leave the commissioners with is that we haven't been getting a lot of input on the BLM travel management plan at this point. And I think a lot of the reason is I think that a lot of the things that are changing in that plan have already happened. The Fillsboro expansion, for example, those are kind of the main things. And then I think, for what's happening, the proposal for the Aqueduct Trail system, there's a lot of public support for that in Mancos. So probably not a lot of real negative things we're going to hear about the travel management plan.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thanks,
All right,
James.
good job.
Thanks for that work on the breakwater.
Yeah,
It sounds like you're making headway.
You always come up with a creative idea.
Thanks, James. Shaq, our county administrator.
Okay, I've got a couple of things. One thing I need to get through before the preliminary budget last week. Let me change the lighting on this a little bit. I had left you gentlemen with hard copies. Oops, too far.
Do you want to ask a question?
No, he answered my question.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would move that the Board of Commissioners approve the pay period of August 1st, 2019 through August 31st, 2019 for Montezuma County.
Second, it's been moved and seconded to approve the expenditure report from August 1st, 2019 through August 31st, 2019. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I'll put
You're
this
good to
up
go
just
on
so the
that.
public knows what the total was.
Which copy do you want me to sign, mine?
Whichever one you want.
Okay.
Whichever one you sign, give it to Kim, please.
Okay.
Let me go back to station one here. All right, the next thing is by October 15th, we have to present preliminary budgets, so I'll pull those up a fund at a time.
I'll look at it.
We'll wait. So I've not sat through the preliminary budget report before, so
We'll have a
we'll do the best I can with that.
We'll have a first.
I'll start with the general fund. Just wait on my whirligig here. It's thinking real hard.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, I can get rid of Rob's deal. And it's still thinking. I don't have all my tabs up. There we go. Let me see if I can zoom, because I don't think anybody in the audience can read that, can you? No. I actually don't know if zooming to the selection will make it bigger or smaller. That didn't help. Well, I'll zoom in on selections as we talk about them. How about that?
Okay.
So, let me start with general fund revenues, and I will zoom this in. Can you guys see that any better?
Mm-hmm.
Well, good news, I'm going to have it put on the website, and I can print hard copies if you come in. So, the property tax, after receiving the valuation from our assessor, looks like general property taxes, assuming that the commission chooses not to adjust the mills for county general, road and bridge, and social services, leaving the mills at 10.338. The general fund would receive approximately $5,500,000 more dollars in general property taxes. That's based on Leslie's valuation. Let me undo the zooming there. If I can figure out how to unzoom here. Well, now what did you do?
Back to road and bridge.
We went back to the road and bridge schedule. Whose idea was that? There we go. Okay, overall revenue for the general fund, budget 2020, would be just down a little less than, something's not right there. That's the transfer in from other funds. Total revenues would be up from 13.4 to 14.6 million. So about 1.2 million more in revenue being projected for the year. All of the expenditures, if I were to go through each one of these tabs on the right, would be just as they were presented. So I want to keep in mind that this is a preliminary budget only. It can still be adjusted. The final budget isn't due until the end of December. But the expenditures coming across are exactly as they've been presented from the department heads in this report.
One question I wanted to ask you, Shaq, on our social services department. Gina and her proposed budget had included a 2% salary increase for all social services department people.
Correct. We had been instructed to give 2% salary increases to the whole county.
Right.
So this budget includes a 2% salary increase for everybody but the elected officials, because that.
My question being there is that when we increased their work hours from 35 to 40, that was social services department wide, was it not?
That was department wide.
Okay,
yes, sir.
I'm a little concerned about, I understand that's same workload, more time to do your workload, you know, so they all recognized a fairly substantial salary increase with that additional hours to their
An additional
workday.
5 hours a week.
Right. I need to have discussion with the commissioners and you about taking that and then doing an additional 2% salary increase on their salaries along with that increased number of hours of work that they're going to, because that's going to boost them up a whole bunch. And so
It was like $1 million, I thought, was it? I can't remember.
I can bring up the social services
And then I
budget.
got some questions on this, but yeah, bring up a commission. Then I want you to go back to this.
I'm not trying to derail you here, but I need to get comfortable somehow that they've seen a large.
That's not it, is it?
Change programs, travel.
Yeah, admin salary.
But it should go, I mean, the total's 15 million or something.
I think in their total.
Yeah, the total,
budget, yeah.
and it shows that, I thought.
This should be highlighting across. Give me a second.
Where it's, I know what you're talking about, but where it stood out.
So their salary projection from 2018 actual was 47,000, and their budget for administration salary is going up almost a third. So for total administration there, you see it going from $750,000 to $1,011,000. And then you see the cost pool salary down here going from 4,000 to 5,000. And so overall, yes, the salary portions are going up quite a bit.
Are you looking at 2018 to 2020 though? Is that what you're comparing?
Correct. We don't have a final on 2019. Well, I could compare the.
We have a budgeted amount though.
Yes, we do have a budgeted amount, and I can go back to that.
The one that I'm talking about is where it says social services, and it shows, is this it? Oh yeah, this is it. The number though, isn't it staggering, Commissioner? 13,235,000, and then 2 years later, we are talking 16,727,000.
$3 million increase in expenditures.
That is huge.
That's a monster.
That's more money than the town of Dolores and Macon probably used to run the whole towns. The $3 million.
And I don't know, I know that a portion of it
80?
Not all of that's county money. I know most of that, I'm sure not all of it's 80/20, some of it's 90/10 and whatever. But that's-
Yeah, you're right. How much is the taxpayers' part?
Well, it's 100%
Right,
taxpayer.
you're right. I mean, how much is the local taxpayers?
It's really hard.
Local taxpayer out of that total number is hard to assess, but you can assume 80%. So 80% of 3.5 million. So that would be
Well, 20%, 80%.
yeah. I'm sorry. Yes, 20%. So 10% of 3.5 would be 350,000, and double that would be nearly $1 million.
How much is our total budget increase then from last year, or the 2 years ago?
Well, I have it by fund. I don't have a total, but we can go fund by fund and look at it.
Well, if the 2020 or the 2019 budget was 15,686,000, and the proposed were up $1 million.
Over $1 million.
$1.1 million.
1 year.
1 year.
Correct.
And these were all, I think, check and correct me if I'm wrong, these are all based on fully funded requests, not just social services, but every department. So maybe.
Yeah, this preliminary budget has a lot of room that we can move around. It's preliminary only. This is based on what's been presented to us the last 3 weeks.
Right. Can you go back? Or
Yeah, but then their ending fund balance is completely, it was 829,000, which the ending fund balance for this year is going to be 1.1 million, so there's another 300,000 that's.
And you can see that ending fund balance each year across the bottom
Yeah,
there.
and they've really been continually depleting that. I don't know, that's just going to be a monster, man.
Well,
It's a monster.
so if you continue that trend of roughly, keep in mind the one is 2019 year, or the estimate for 2019 may or may not come true, but if you were to figure $200,000 to $300,000 a year decrease in ending fund balance, in 3 to 4 years, you're going to be out of fund balance.
This is for social services?
This is social services.
So what does that mean, that our ending fund balance? Are these things that we want to deplete or we lose it, or is this not necessarily?
No, I'm not sure. I assume
yeah,
that's.
because they're their own ball, they're a whole different ball game.
I don't know.
They are a different ball game, but in my opinion, when your ending fund balance gets to 0, you quit operating.
Or
or you're the federal government.
I knew that was coming.
You could go 22 trillion past 0 with the way they do math, but I think the state of Colorado requires more out of us.
Can you go back to that general fund?
Sure. I'll be going to general fund and capital and everything. So, the general fund, I'd already covered the revenues, and then the total expenditures based solely upon everybody's request. So this isn't guaranteed. So the total expenditures would go from 12.9, so basically 13 million, to 14.4. So that'd be $1.5 million increase in expenditures. And then I show a $6 million transfer under that. Again, preliminary only, because you're discussing about doing $5 million worth of road projects, upgrading some solar stuff, and then what I show that's going to be something different than what was presented is the way that we handled building landfill cells in the past wasn't to run the landfill into a deficit. Melissa moved that money into capital. We spent it out of there. Then the total amount spent at the end of the year was given as a loan to the landfill to repay into the capital. So.
And you had mentioned something though. We got 275,000 in that.
We've got roughly 2.5 in capital right now.
No, but I mean the landfill enterprise fund specifically. We have how much saved for the closure?
Let me bring that up. Hang on.
The reason I'm asking that, you're talking about borrowing the money from the county, and then the landfill pay the county back, which we've done multiple times. But why wouldn't we use the 275,000 towards that, even though it's for the closure of the landfill, but just replenish it as soon as? Is there a reason?
Well, and I'm gonna bring that up. Give me 1 second for what the landfill is proposing. So I'm gonna bring up two different landfill deals. The first one I'm gonna bring up is their monthly report from last year, so we can see where they're sitting. Let me change the view on this. Where did my cursor go? So basically, when we get to the bottom of the landfill, where they're sitting right now is a little over, $350,000 to the good. And you're right, that fund balance can be used as the initial part. Mel right now in his projection, which is what I'm going to show you in his landfill proposal.
I mean, I understand either way, it's the county's money and it's going to be reimbursed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to figure out the best way.
So he's proposing under construction for building cell 4, $620,000 for all the liners and everything like that. That's what his projected cost is right now. So with a balance of $350,000, he'd still end up shy. And again, I would think. It turns out that the treasurer has a fund for landfill closure that's been sitting at $15,000 since the beginning of time. I think after raising the prices on everybody at the beginning of this year to cover the landfill closure costs, I think at least a portion of that money at the end of the year needs to be transferred into that fund to sit there just for that. But yeah, whatever's in the
purpose of that was.
That is what the purpose was. Yeah, you're right. But yeah, whatever's left over in this fund should absolutely be used first. And then whatever we don't need in capital will just sit there, and whatever he uses from capital would get paid back over time. Mm-hmm. But I'm just showing a transfer of the whole amount in case it's needed. But he would obviously pay whatever he can out of the landfill fund first. That would make the most sense.
The general fund?
Yes, I can. Which one am I at now? This is social services, landfill.
Here we go.
Oh, okay.
So this number of the ending fund balance for the general fund is that including this $621,000? Would still be 9.6? Or
correct. Transferring everything out to capital, transferring the $6 million. Doing everything that every department requested and doing what you requested would, if everything went according to plan, leave the general fund with $9.608 million.
That's the point that I wanted to make. So when Commissioner Ortell and I became commissioners, we were elected in 2012. And what is that number?
9.6 million.
9.6 million. That was 6.5 years ago. Well, longer than that. Time flies when you get older and on steroids like I am. So if we could do the 5 million projects, we could do the landfill, and Commissioner Ortell and I there would still be, and that is just in the general fund. There would still be 9.6 million when we left. There would still be 7 or 6, what is it, 4 million, 5 in the...
There'd be 2.5 in capital.
But Road and Bridge has what?
Road and Bridge has about 7 million. And I can bring theirs up if you want to look at the
yes,
number. Okay.
I do. My point is that if the county infuses the extra 5 million, we are still sitting with 17 million more. So what did it, I went to CCI, I asked them, what is the average? Three months working is with the majority of these counties.
The ones that aren't in
So
debt,
Delta
then,
County, for example, it's 3 months. If we spent, and I'm just talking 5, but if we even spent 10, but if we spent 10, there would still be 17 million more than what the other counties are doing for working capital in their reserve. So, but if we spent 5, I haven't even calculated what that would be. You know, added, if we took 5 out of the, put into the transfer from the general fund. The other thing is look at the difference in the general fund.
Well, we're looking at Road and Bridge now.
Yeah.
This is Road and Bridge that you asked me to bring up. So the top here is column K is the budget for 2019. Column M is the projected 2020. So it's projected that at the end of 2019 with the proposed budget, they would be at a ending fund balance of 5.5, but right now they're sitting at 9.2. But their ending fund balance at the end of 2020 with all of Rob's projected expenditures, not including the 5 million, would be 8.7 million.
Now go back to the other one.
Which other one?
The general fund.
Okay.
The one I always, that tells the most.
Sorry.
So this is what I want to tell the audience. This, in my opinion, is the slush fund for county government. This is the, you said the sheriff, what was you talking about that he was going to take out of there? He takes out of the general fund?
Yes, the sheriff comes out of general fund.
So when I leave as a county commissioner, I know that this is a slush fund. This is where the county can go and take money where you, as a taxpayer, might not necessarily agree or not, because of it's the general fund. The general fund, when Commissioner Attell and I started, was let's see, the actual
9.6.
Yeah, but no, because we're sitting at 20-some before he starts shaving this down.
Ending fund balance in 2012 was 9.65. Yeah. That's the ending fund. When were you elected?
2012.
2012. So when you took over, you started with 9.65.
Yes, that's the point I'm trying to make. And then the ending fund balance for what L is year to date.
Yeah, that's right now with everything.
But you have to go up total. So what is the number? Is it 15? Is it this 14 million? I'm a little confused.
The beginning of the year, the end of 2018 was 14.8 ending fund balance. Melissa projected that it would be 15.4 due to some investments going well and a little more actually coming in taxes than we projected. We're currently sitting closer to 17.
17 million. And we just said that the county, there was an increase of tax revenue of, was it?
500,000, $500,000 for
Yeah,
next year. What's that?
Where would that 500,000 increased revenue go?
That would go into the general fund.
That's what I wanted you to say. What I'm saying is this. As a county commissioner, this is the slush fund for the county. When I leave as a county commissioner, I don't want that slush fund to be so big. That's why I think it's critical that we transfer the $6 million to the capital fund and knock the general fund down. What we did was, Melissa, and we did this because we were $1.3 million short because of the housing.
Courthouse.
Yeah.
Residential property.
We changed the mill levies, took money away from the road and bridge, and we increased the mill levy of the general fund. The money going, so it would go to the general fund. Now, in my opinion, it's lopsided. We have created a monster here with the general fund, and we've outweighed it, and it needs to be readjusted.
So are you saying to adjust the mill levy and transfer the money?
Yes,
And I know
I'm
you
saying-
did, there, you got to certify the levies on a certain day. I don't know what it is,
Yeah,
but you're
that's
saying do
later.
both?
I'm suggesting that it's something we should all think about,
Right.
that we adjust it because all additional tax revenue, this is the thing about this county, anybody that's lived here, you can go uptown on a Tuesday night and the restaurants are packed now. I mean, you guys all lived here, you've all older than me. You just think when school started? Well, that actually, well, these two aren't, but what I'm trying to say,
And neither is Kim.
we were found, okay, this notion that we're 26,000 people, we're 30,000 people. I would bet my ranch that when they do that census, we're 30,000 people. Our county roads, I don't care where you go, they are busy. It doesn't take a genius to see what used to happen to our town in October and what it looks like now to realize that we've been found. And what we haven't done is infrastructure. Infrastructure is what is the most important thing to handle all that additional traffic. What we did is we've saved, and saved. We've created this, because Commissioner Ertel is such a conservative commissioner, we have created a $30-some million, think about this, it shows where we spent $10 million and we still have almost $28 million this year, the courthouse. That's unbelievable. I'm showing this to these other commissioners and there's like, I can't believe you're hoarding that. But this is their exact word. We are hoarding the money. It's taxpayer money. We have got to think, long term. I know Commissioner Candelaria said, well, you're a little ambitious. No, I'm not ambitious. He doesn't start a house without building the whole damn house. Our roads, we just got to take off driving around the road. They found us. We've got the money. We've got a road supervisor that has this capability of doing these roads, and we need to give him that $5 million. And then we can pick which roads later, but I think it's so important that we do not leave such a slush fund and that we actually use that money for the taxpayers where it belongs. It's, in my opinion, the right thing to do. And I have put it on Facebook, I have networked, and I have yet to find a constituent that says, no, I want you to grow the general fund bigger. They're like, fix my road, fix my road. And like I said, we would take our budget from 27 million to 22 million with the 5 million infusion into the reserves, into the capital fund. When you add everything together. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that I would suggest on our budget, Shaq, and this is the first time you did it, is, and I know that we're got in a position for we're getting an accountant, what do you call financial director?
Financial officer. Mm-hmm.
I would think that it would be in the county's best interest to hire, just because you're brand new and everything, and you're doing a fantastic job. But I think that it would be in the county's best interest to hire Majors and Haley to come in, look at our preliminary budget with us, and to give us some guidance on if they think that we're doing.
The only thing I would caution on that is you couldn't bring Chris himself in. And the reason being is because as the auditor, he's the watchdog, and so I don't know if legally he can give us advice.
And we still got time. Maybe, well, that would be fine. Any other accountant but
Sure.
I want to make sure that we made mistakes when Melissa first came, where we forgot to do the mill levy for the Florist Water Conservancy District. Remember that? It was $1 million some. It was just these little things because you guys are both extremely smart, but it's a learning process, and it's better to be double checked.
I don't disagree.
It's $40 million. It's a lot of money.
Yeah. So I want to challenge your thinking just a little bit.
That's great.
So, and I don't disagree with what you said about infrastructure, but the way I see government is their job is to provide for defense and to provide for commerce and then to stay out of everybody's life. And I think that infrastructure meets the bill for providing for commerce. I think the thing that gets us both locally and nationally on defense and commerce is the substance abuse epidemic that we're facing. As a country, we have 330 million people. And they estimate that roughly a third of adults are suffering from a substance abuse problem in the country right now. On a global economy, we're competing against China that has 1.2 billion people. And if we don't have everybody participating in our economy, we are eventually going to lose that struggle, and it starts at the local level. And as far as providing for defense goes, a lot of the you could ask the sheriff's department, they could probably give you the numbers of how many of the burglaries, how many of the armed conflicts that we have in the local area, how many violent crimes involve substance abuse. So I think if we're going to do the role of government, which is to provide for defense and to provide for commerce, one of the biggest things we could address is the substance abuse crisis.
That was very well stated. Where I would have a change of opinion is that if there is 30,000 people out there in the county and they're paying the taxes, they more than likely would like for you to spend their money on what the majority of 30,000 people use. I think that if you was to go out and poll our constituents and you was to tell them that you would want to take the biggest part of the money and put it all to, say, 1,000, if there's 1,000 people that are abusing, and then that leaves the other 27,000 out there in the cold, I think that you would get a different response where they think the best place to spend their money would be.
I think you're right. I'm not suggesting the whole lump sum, but right now the only ask we've had is from Axis, and that's 10,000, and we're not putting any additional dollars towards it.
Okay.
Just something to think about.
Right, no, and I agree. But I do agree, I'm still stuck on the roads, that we need to fix the roads. We have a road supervisor that can do it, and if we don't transfer the money, then we before the budget process and give Rob either a yes or no, then it'll be too late to do it.
Well, you three commissioners have till the end of December to wrestle over it.
Well, no, we don't. Rob said the sooner the better to lock in the price of the oil.
Sure.
That's what he said. So the sooner that we give him the go-ahead, well, the sooner that we transfer the money to the capital fund, and then the second step would be to give the go-ahead to spend the extra $5 million.
Well, I think we couldn't transfer the money until the new budget, but you could make the decision that it will be transferred in January.
Right.
But I don't know if we could transfer it this year. Do you want to look at the capital fund next?
I'm so confused now. I don't care what.
You confused yourself.
So right now, the capital sits at $2.5 million. After we get done with purchasing the sheriff's evidence building and everything else that's coming out of the capital this year, we'll be starting the capital budget for 2020 at about $2 million. I showed the transfer in from the general fund of $6 million and another transfer in because in Jennifer's budget, she had talked about new senior citizens bus, and there's a fund just for that. So that would be transferred in. And so up in the green is where it would be spent, and then, or when it would be transferred in, then it would be transferred out down in the blue. And I think actually when I sent this in an email, I had this line from the red box drawn over to the 100,000. That would actually transferring the $6 million, assuming the whole county would, or that the landfill would need the entire amount borrowed. That would leave a $100,000 increase actually in general fund or capital fund, sorry, and it would bring it up to 2.1 million from a starting point of 2.01. So that red box can actually be ignored at this point because I had it drawn to the wrong line. It was pretty late at night.
Shaq, what is our average monthly expenditure? What does it cost to run the county on an average month? 3 million?
A couple of million, give or take. Let me,
Give or take.
last month was an average month, so the entire, county. Just a second here. I'd have to add these up, but it's a couple of million a month.
But that includes social services, which all of that's, which a vast majority of that doesn't have anything to do with general fund.
And a lot of public health fund money doesn't have it. Well, social services is a completely different fund. It has nothing to do with general fund money.
Okay.
Yeah, it is a
So
complete
it
separate
doesn't show in
fund.
our totals on, but it shows in our totals for monthly cost of operations, does it not?
Correct. We cut them a check out of general fund. But yeah, that, couple $1 million a month.
So it'd be safe to say that the 3-month, what is the standard, would be 6 million for Montezuma County, 7.
6 to 8.
And if we used 5 million, we'd be leaving 22 million.
Well, in the general fund,
Well,
you'd be leaving.
Well,
I'm
but
just-
I'm adding them all together.
Yeah, I don't take.
But
it-
those other funds that have so
Yeah,
many
we
strings
can't-
attached, we can't
don't
really
get to
count them
dabble
in
with those.
anything.
I think we need to look at general fund balances of operation, not
Okay,
road and bridge
well-
and health and social services.
And I want to keep in mind that in the general fund balance, there's a lot of money that we can't technically touch too. It's coming in as grants that have to be spent in specific ways.
But I can tell you what, which would be, look at our general fund and then start looking at some other county general funds. I really feel like ours is lopsided, and I think you're gonna find that that's the case.
Well, I think we've got a lot of reserves. I don't argue with that. Before I make a decision on that, I want to go through each department's budget, proposed budgets.
And you have that in your email.
Yeah.
I sent it all in one spreadsheet, so you can click across those tabs. And those things certainly merit it.
And that, what I
a
need
lot.
is, it helps me is if you give us the total increase.
For the whole county,
Yes.
all the funds combined.
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
that's a real quick snapshot, you know. If you're saying we're gonna increase it, 6%. I don't know what the percentage is. Is it 3%? Is it 2%?
The whole county?
Yeah.
So,
It's an automatic 2% with salary increases, that's automatic.
well, that's not 2% of the whole budget, though.
No,
Yeah.
But I'm
yeah.
talking about the whole budget.
oh, okay.
That's what I'm talking about, the whole budget.
I'll
I
get
know
you that
Commissioner
total
Taylor
number.
doesn't like to grow government, and I don't either. And I think that when we see these two different numbers, it's gonna look huge. And I know that we have in the past, we have said, okay, we are going to increase the budget. The commissioners have said 700,000. And then we instruct the administrator, you figure out which ones to cut and which ones to keep. And you come back and we give us a budget that's 700,000 higher than last year. I'm just using that for an example. I don't know what that number is, or if that's even how we do it, but that's one way of doing it. Because I can, and I don't blame any of the departments, but they're gonna always ask for the moon, and they should. That's doing their job, but they're not gonna get the moon. If they did, we would look like La Plata County, and we wouldn't have no money.
Could we get a rock kebab at one of our intersections?
And then take it down.
Could we get a rock kebab for each median?
Anything's possible, Shaq. We've got to go through the city to do that in CDOT, so.
I would also like to keep in mind on this capital budget that a lot of these blue lines are the solar projects that you have in mind for the coming year too.
And roof replacement, wasn't it? Because it's huge.
Correct. Yeah, those are big numbers. I mean, but compared to millions, they add up to a little over $1 million, but.
All right, well, I'm cool.
Yeah, we're getting there. We're not there yet, but we're getting there.
So preliminary, that's what you're looking at for
Yeah.
the budget. If everybody was granted to everything was granted to everybody, including to the commissioners.
And we have to take into consideration all elected official salaries are gonna go up by what, about?
Newly
10?
elected.
Newly elected.
Yeah,
but
people who are already in office. That won't be, or will we have any newly?
Well, the ones that were put into office 2 years ago, theirs have already gone up. Now it's just to catch up to the ones that will be reelected, or the new electees that are coming in 2020.
Does the county have anybody that's up in, well, you
Maybe
guys,
it won't
but that's
affect next year.
2021.
It's not gonna affect
Yeah,
this year's budget.
that won't affect 2020 budget. That'll affect 2021 budget.
Well, our budget's growing, if I was looking at that correctly, anywhere from $500,000 to $700,000, except for 1 year since we've been commissioner.
The fund balance has grown every year.
Yes.
Except for 2016 when you did the courthouse.
Yes. So, they're here. They found us.
And I made a commitment, and I'm gonna stick by it, that we are gonna get that Kinder Morgan settlement in 2020, and I'm hoping that the auditor for the assessor's office has all the audits done, because I want to present a bill to Kinder Morgan in the first quarter of 2020 with payment expected within 60 days of the presentation of that bill to Kinder Morgan, and I want that. I'm going to be a lot more comfortable with some of the things that Commissioner Supla wants to see and some of the things that we're doing within our budget. I won't be able to get comfortable before we approve a budget, but I want to be comfortable in my own skin that money is going to be, the past due money that Kinder Morgan owes us is going to come into this county by the year 2020.
And I think before there's a vote one way or another on that, maybe I should try to find out exactly what that number could be.
I'd appreciate it if you could do that with Leslie, and also maybe get an idea if Ms. Denemy has finished her audits. I think she should be done. She had 1 year left the last time I spoke with Leslie, so we should have all those audits. I'm hopefully by the end of the year have all those years audited and done. And then hopefully we're not going to go back to the courts with Mr. Morgan on anything further.
Commissioner, when do you think you would feel comfortable about the additional road?
About the 3rd of December. When do we have to submit our budget?
We have to submit a budget to DOLA by the end of December, but oil prices are usually lowest in the winter.
I'm not going to let that seasonal fluctuation influence my decision on that.
Because there is another option. We could do a resolution that whatever the settlement is would go straight back into the general fund.
Right.
And then it wouldn't matter. It would just be, it would automatically be put into the general fund when it was.
You're putting a lot of faith in our judicial system.
You know, usually when you get a Supreme Court decision and says, yes, this is what it is and this is how it should go, I pray that there's not recourse on that decision-making process, because we've battled them for the last 8 years to get the Supreme Court decision, and they decided it, and now it's time to pay the price. I mean, if they get this back in the courts, I'm going to be one upset human being if they get some of this back into the courts again.
But I think they will. It's a huge corporation, and that's how they play the game.
We're still in the courts with them on a couple different cases.
I know.
But let's ask our lawyer. What do you think of the probability of seeing any money next year?
High. I don't know.
High? Okay.
Yeah, but I'd bet on it. But I just, it's one of those things that you don't want to necessarily count your chickens before they hatch.
I understand that, but
I'd feel more comfortable once it's in the bank. But presumably we should be finishing those up, submit the bill to them, and get paid. That's how it should happen.
Shoulda, woulda, coulda.
Right.
So just a pop quiz on the national level, on a federal level. Does anybody know what the check against the Supreme Court is?
What?
The check against the Supreme Court. If the president doesn't like what Congress does, he can veto it. And if the Congress doesn't like what the president does with a 3/5 vote, they can overturn it. What's the check against the Supreme Court? It's never been done before, but it can be done.
I couldn't tell you.
It's a 3/5 majority vote in both houses. The House of Representatives and the Senate can overturn a vote of the Supreme Court.
Getting that done is highly unlikely.
It's highly unlikely, but nobody's ever tried
Right.
before.
Well, we're in an enviable position right now. And I'll have to concur, we're in a very enviable position with our funds and our fund balances and our revenues. I mean, we have lots of options. There are lots of options for us, so. But everything's preliminary right now, and there are some departments that I want to take a closer look at before we make a final decision on that budget.
Roger that.
I'm good.
Okay.
County Commissioners reports.
Yep. Mr. Supel, you got anything to tell?
Yeah, I went, flew to Denver, went to the CCI over the 30 bills that they, last Friday, that they proposed. And there was a huge fight. And I got to just tell you the way that it made me feel, because I've been going there for 6 years. The way that it made me feel was that as an elected official, my job is to do what's best for the citizens of Montezuma County. That's my job. When people are commissioners for so long, not all, but some, they get the mindset that their job is to do what's best for the county. Not what's definitely necessarily best for the citizens, but what is best for the county. And it is very disturbing to, when I would ask the question, well, how does this help the citizens? And it was like, who cares about the citizens? I'm talking about the county. It made me sick to my stomach to think about how they get lost, the commissioners do, and that it's county and everything and not citizens and everything. And there were so many bills that were passed. For instance, one is a septic. We charge $450 to get a septic permit, and then we use an engineer to do the engineered system. It's mandatory engineered. And then what happens is the engineer designs it, and they're all different depending on where its location is. It could cost $7,000 for the system. It could cost $30,000. And then our health inspector goes out there and inspects it first, and then at the final before it's covered up. And our expenses are all covered with that $450. Well, look, 9 counties are saying they're spending $2,600 to $3,000 for this. And so one of the bills was to increase, because there's a cap of $1,000, to increase that cost to where the county can charge whatever they want. And so my thought of counties going to belong to CCI is, again, what I say, government is wrong a lot. And so if you got counties that know how to do it correctly, why wouldn't you go there first instead of creating a bill to charge up to $3,000 to the landlord? Because this is what they're doing, and this is what's going to get them in trouble. And I tried to explain that. They're like, they have an inspector, a private engineer engineers it. Then they have their engineer tweak what their engineer does. Well, they set themselves up for a lawsuit, thinking I'm a landowner, a homeowner, the county's or this final inspection of my septic system, 5 years down the road, it fails. I get my lawyer, I lawyer up, and I'm like, well, you were the last ones to inspect it, so you're the ones liable to fix the system. But the way that we do it, it's the private engineering firm that is responsible. So I tried to help them, and the comments that I got was, every county should do what they want. You know, that county sovereignty, whatever the county wants to do, they should do what they want. Well, that's not the best thing for the people. The best thing to do is to learn from other counties that are doing it better, and then do that with your county. But I can tell you, it was just all that they care about is what I seen lost was it's just all about the county and not about the people that live in it, and it made me sick to my stomach. But anyway, That was one of the priorities. Out of 20-some priorities, that was one of that one, and the other one was it did get defeated, but it's this they want to change. So these Airbnb where you can rent, a house out on your property. Well, the tax is 7.15% for residential property, and they want, if you live in it for over 30 days, or if you rent it for over 30 days short term, they want to increase the tax to 28%.
Go to
Commercial. And which is hundreds of thousands of dollars for like Gunnison County and them. And so then I use their philosophy. They're saying, okay, let the counties do whatever they want. I said, okay, you guys want to do that, then that's fine with us as long as Montezuma County, if we choose, we don't have to do that. And they said, no, you can't do that. It has to be statewide. Because I said, you guys can have the millionaires in Telluride, and we'll take the workers in Montezuma County because we're more in line with those workers than we are with those millionaires. That got turned down just for the fact that they were going to make all of us do that. And I use the example of John McHenry's house, which the CFO of Osprey bought. And he paid, it was $450,000. They rented it Airbnb short term for 4 months. And to pay their mortgage, they already bought another house so that they could, until they sold the house. Well, because of this law that they want to enact, it would have taken that house. It's $450,000. $3,600 is what the taxes that they were paying. The new owner would have had to pay $12,600, and it would have killed the deal. For the, it was just
into a commercial property rather than a residential property.
And it would, yes, and so, but it's just
that knife can cut both ways, no?
Exactly. But other than that, it was a great day.
Other than that, you were just fine.
That's all I have.
All right. Last Wednesday, we met with Rick Garcia, the head of DOLA. Had a nice gathering here. A lot of people, real estate people, had a good turnout for that meeting with Mr. Garcia, and he understands what severance money is about and how it's going to be divided up. And I'm sorry, our representative here, his name escapes me.
Patrick?
Patrick. What's his last name?
Rod and Nelly? I'm not sure I'm saying
yeah,
that
from
right.
URA. And he was here, and so it's DOLA's doing what they can with severance money, and their revenues are not really increasing. Their grant funding, their grant cycles are still down, and the numbers that becomes more and more competitive to get DOLA dollars because there's more competition for them and less revenues to be handed out. So it was nice to meet Mr. Garcia. It seemed like a very nice gentleman. Sorry I didn't make the TPR meeting. I think Commissioner Candelaria made that, and that's about all I had. We had a meeting with AFLAC yesterday afternoon, and I think with their representative and our ladies in the office, they came to some nice understandings about how they're going to be able to track and look at all the people in the county that participate in AFLAC on pre-tax dollars. There's been some rub between AFLAC and creating a lot of extra work for Billy and Phaedra in the office and doing those deductions out of those pre-tax deductions on premiums for AFLAC policies. And I think they got some things opened up, and I think we've got a much better relationship with Ms. Cox, who is the lady from the AFLAC office. I think things are going to run a lot more smoothly with that AFLAC stuff. So.
Will AFLAC still have the injury insurance?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and she presented to us yesterday that their what's it called, their family policy, their family policy rather. There's a group when AFLAC first initiated their insurance, they came into different entities and formed these groups where they owned
one's group and one's traditional.
Right, and one's traditional, and they've increased the traditional benefits for insignificant rate and premium increases, better coverage, more dollars, a lot more to it. So I think we're going to try and disband the group that rests within Montezuma County, because there is a pool or a group of AFLAC employees, and place them in the traditional plans for much better coverage, much higher benefit payments and stuff, and so they've evolved out of that group.
But can you still, if you just want to buy the injury policy, for the $25 a month for a family member, you can do so.
Yes.
Yep, absolutely.
Because I want to tell you, that $25 a month policy for my wife paid her $7,500 with her broken leg.
Yeah, it's paid me out twice. My youngest daughter broke an arm playing volleyball in Dolores in middle school, and then she was going through the corn maze in Grand Junction a few years ago and broke the other arm. So that policy is paid for itself.
Yeah.
Good
She takes
stuff.
after her dad, sounds like.
That's all I had.
That's all I have.
Okay.
You got one more item there.
We now have public comment, so if there's anybody that wishes to address the commissioners, gosh, it's afternoon, so this afternoon, come right up and address us.
Seeing no one,
Well,
you missed your chance.
Oh, uh-oh.
we've got the lady in red. We've got the lady in red.
Gail O'Connor, 767 Pew County Road, CC, Pleasant View. Larry Dons?
Yeah, turn your mic on.
Sorry.
Okay. I want to welcome you to the Democratic Party. You sound like a Democrat.
Oh my gosh, for what? Why?
Well, wanting to spend down all of this fund balance, this extra money that the county has accumulated, and now you want to spend, spend, spend. It's wonderful. Welcome.
I think he's calling that an investment in our infrastructure, not just spend, spend, spend. It's an investment.
What's the difference?
There's a lot of difference. Well, thank you, Gayla.
Yes, thank you, Gayla.
I'm not saying thank you.
I got you.
Well, you know, I'm like Ellen. I have Democrats that are friends too.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, we're all in it together, aren't we?
Yes, we better.
I mean, we need to, I think we need to quit this segregation line. It's us against them. It's we for everybody, and I think yet.
So how would you feel if I told you both wings were attached to the same bird?
You'd probably be right, Shaq. Yeah. Anybody else wish to address the commission?
Move to adjourn.
I'll second that. It's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, aye. Okay.